professional. No, goddamn it. You're muted, what? Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Trial watching, trials and tribulations. It's Camp Shorty calling all nations. What are you drinking? Shall we skip this part? Left or right-handed? Shit, she slid it to the start. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddamn it. You're muted, what? Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Psychology corner. Let's learn about stuff. New Miss Shorty music. Calling their bluff. Best chat, best community. We've got the best lives. A safe, supportive sanctuary full of fun and love. Rock out with your cats out. Curse all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say God. She's a fucking professional. You goddamn it. You're muted, what? Endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Hey, Shorties, what's going, y'all? Get in here, Shorties. Let's fucking go. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty.
Hey, shorties. Hello, 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 hello. Good to see you. Good to see you. Prince is here. Colors is here. I've got my switch in my hair, my fake pony, and my Miss Shorty merch. Boom. Simi, hi. Wait, I feel like Stream Elements is here. Poppy. Hey, wait. Why aren't you showing up? Hi, Matilda. 1 second. I already did something. Pause. Hold that thought. Thanks, Matilda. Type something else, Matilda. I did this yesterday and then it didn't work. So type something else. Hi, Steph. Good to see you. Are you excited about next weekend? The advocacy conference. I'm excited for you. Here we go. Let me see. Hi, Joey. Good to see you. Oh, Buster. God damn it. That's better. Matilda, there she goes. Welcome to the Mod Squad, Matilda. I did do it already, but you know, the best laid plans and all that. The tank looks awesome. It does, doesn't it? I've got another one that I'll wear tomorrow night, and then I have another one on order. Miss Shorty Music. Steph's so excited. Kelly, hi, good to see you. Happy Friday, Saturday. Yes, it's Saturday here. Did I say hi, Simi? Yes, hi, Simi. Life artist. Hi. What the fuck? Hi. Oh, tank top looks great. I got a small. It's kind of perfect. I could have gone an extra small if I wanted it a bit more slinky. Wouldn't have gone any bigger because then it would look silly. Hot top. Thanks, Joey. So have I said hello to everyone? Princey, Steph. What the fuck? Simi, Matilda, now in blue. Joey, hi. Colors, hi. Hi, life artist. Did I say hi? I did say hi, but I didn't put you up on the screen because. Hi. Hope you've had a good week. I had yesterday off from the peasant work, and somehow I feel refreshed, but also for the first time ever in my life, I have puffy bags under my eyes, which is wild. Micah, hi. I'm not sure. I'm just going to call you the big M. Buster. Hey, the dogs are here. We've got pig's ears. Snip, snip. It's going to be crunchy, but better than panting, I think. It's going to be a close second. Who wants the bigger one? I think this one looks like Bussy. See you later, crunchy munchy honey cakes. And you. Ooh. Welcome to it's not, I guess it's Psychology Corner, but we're going to focus much on neurodivergence this evening. Let me just fix this. So 2 streams. Ugh, that's not fixed. I have so many tabs. 2 streams tonight. This one, what is it called? ADHD and Trauma. Is there a correlation? So I bumped the Adelson trial, Charlie Adelson recap in preparation for Donna Adelson, because this grabbed my attention far more. We'll get to it, but we've got still a bit of time. Nicholas Ticholas is in the house. Hi. That's what she said. I have a That's What She Said t-shirt. It happens to be a Miss Shorty one. Are we surprised? So I've been doing a little bit of watching of stuff always, and Amber, who is on her way, she's still at her own peasant work. Amber shared with me the second of the videos we're going to watch tonight, and then I went to that channel, which is called the ADHD Chatter podcast. Links in the description box, and found a great foundational shorter video. So let's see how much we can get through. I vote yes. Akasha, hi. I vote yes. There's a correlation. Hard yes. Absolutely a correlation. Yes. Yes, Kelly. So on that, severity of the trauma can vary greatly. Yes. My assertion has always been, and it's echoed in one or both crunching of the videos we're going to watch, that there is no such thing as, and this is my verbiage, a hierarchy of trauma. Trauma is trauma. And if it affects a person's life, childhood, well-being, it's trauma, right? So, hi, Debbie. Good to see you. Are you still in Ireland or are you back in the States? Your holiday has looked amazing. The degustation of it all, the food and the drinks and the sightseeing that Debbie's been doing. I'm so jealous, Debbie, so envious, and I'm so happy for you. You deserve a holiday, and I'm so glad. Okay, so both videos we're going to watch are in the description box, and they're both from that YouTube channel, the ADHD Chatter podcast. Brits, Nick, they're Brits. Everybody, we can brush up on our British accents. You're back in the States, Debbie. Lovely. I'm so happy for you that you had a beautiful time. It looked like you had an amazing time. It was an awesome trip. Yes. So what the fuck says? So interested to learn today. I'm autistic. Hubs is ADHD, and kiddo is both AU ADHD. High amount of PTSD for myself and Hubs. Hoping we haven't passed it on to the kidlet, but we know how that goes. This is the live stream for you and your family. What the fuck? And I think that it will be helpful for all of us. I remember Princey a few weeks ago. What is time? Call back to the next stream. Time blindness. Notice how we started 15 minutes late. Time blindness. It's a blessing and a curse. There's the first video. So shall I stop talking about it and shall we just go into it? I'm trying to be more professional. Lol. Wait. Okay. So a bit more housekeeping. So we have a draw that I'll probably do tonight, but maybe I'll save it till tomorrow night. We'll see. For any super chat, super stickers, buy me a coffee, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, right? Look at us being all profesh. We'll go in the draw for any Miss Shorty merch, t-shirt or top, this included. TJ, Maiden, sorry TJ, sorry Maiden, fuck. Right. Maiden chose this, but in the other color, the bold and mysterious one. So it's a beautiful quality, like I cannot stress enough. So we'll draw that at some point. I've got my Shorty mug here and a pen and these bad boys to write down your names. Buy me a copies, charity, merch store, pay the mods. Stuff. Michael Diamond. I have had serious trauma in my life. I'm diagnosed with severe learning disabilities and ADHD. I got on meds in 2010 and got my life back. 15 years later, I now hate my life with the meds. Well, that was a roller coaster, Michael. I'm so sorry. Me over here, undiagnosed but self-diagnosed autistic and ADHD, raw dogging it, unmedicated, former trigger warning, meth user, much easier to think and focus, but also meth, not good for you. So here I am now, raw dogging it against life. So we're here for you, Michael. Welcome and thank you for being here. Kelly says, I feel this in my bones. Neurospicy streams usually run on presenters standard time. Yeah. Like a lifelong Shorty standard time. I love it. Make it merch. Chat, make it merch. So the next stream is time blindness, but it's all very interwoven. Dave, hi, good to see you. Been busy wiring up houses, new construction. I'm slacking is what I mean. Much support, much respect. I love you, Dave. I understand life comes first and sometimes life gets in the way, right? It's okay. I know you're around. We're friends on Facey. It's all good, man. But thank you for like apologizing. No apologies. No sorries. Okay, what are we doing? Sharing screen. So as I said, both these videos are in the oh my god, so many tabs. Give me a moment, chat. Walk and talk, chat. Walk and talk. Okay, so this one. Okay, so this guy. Shut up. Shall we just, how about we just let him say it instead of me rabbiting on madly? Hit the like, please and thank you. After the live stream has ended, I'd love you to leave a comment while I think of it. Replay crew, hi, thank you for being here. We'll timestamp it at 14 minutes in, lol. But replay crew, if you would like to watch the live chat on your handheld device, like a tablet, iPad, phone, after, like if you're on replay, it's absolutely possible. All you need to do is swipe left on the comment tab. Thank you, Joey. Best ever. Swipe left on the comment tab and it will give you the option for live chat replay instead. So I try to put as many comments up on screen as I can. But sometimes I'm doing other things and it's fun they might be out of order. Anyway, let me just check the speed because you know me. I might put it a little bit bumped up. Oh, it's on normal. Look at me being all professional stuff. Let me go with, oh my goodness, Buster's crunching hard over there. The ADHD of it all. Yikes. Shall we?
If I think about ADHD, so many mental health conditions. If I think about ADHD, so many mental health conditions are called disorders. Many people quite rightly say.
Oh, that's
Like
fast.
being described as
okay,
disordered.
man.
And
Hit that
the
too
other D,
fast.
deficit. I suspect for you, it doesn't feel like a deficit at all. You've got an excess of attention. It's just trying to focus it that's the challenge.
Dr. Martin Brunet, a leading NHS GP.
With over 23 years of experience in
so
assessing and
fast.
diagnosing ADHD
He's an expert on how you can break free from your harmful cycles.
and simple strategies to help you master your ADHD.
I'm sort of ashamed to say in many ways how it was viewed when I first qualified. So it was very definitely the naughty boy stereotype.
Oh,
the idea of
Tasha!
girls with
Wait,
ADHD,
pause.
barely a
Pause.
concept. But I remember being taught
Pause. Because I don't want to talk over him because it's important. He talks very fast. We're going to have to go normal speed. My brain must be slow today because that feels fast. Lol. Akasha, first cab off the ranks. Thank you. Payday. All my payday's always gone. Pay's always gone very soon after, within a day. Thank you so much. You're in the draw. Let me do a sound effect because yikes. That's what we do here. This And
I'll
this.
take any motherfucker's money if he giving it away. Shit.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get back to it.
Thought that autism was a childhood form of schizophrenia.
Really? What's the consequences of unmanaged anxiety, unmanaged stress?
So that's the host. Let's get straight to the fucking thing. We don't need to watch the trailer. We're watching the whole episode, right? Right.
Hyper-focused right now that they haven't eaten all day. Martin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you for inviting me.
You've been a GP, Martin, for around 23 years.
Yes, yeah.
Out of the patients that do come to you with anxiety, do you have an inclination towards how many of those are undiagnosed ADHD?
Many more than we think. And it's very easy to miss, I think, and very easy to sort of gloss over. One of the problems with anxiety when you're coming to see a GP is often there's so much you could deal with. You come with anxiety, but often you're coming with other physical symptoms of anxiety or things you're worried
Maybe
about.
I can speed him a little bit.
Both doctor and patient can get sidetracked in checking out the chest pain
it is
as
on
part of their
1.15.
anxiety, and they
What?
never
No, it's
really
not. Wait,
come
what?
to the anxiety. Or you've got to deal with the anxiety in itself and check that things like thoughts of self-harm, and they've got OCD, have they got an eating disorder, are they gambling, are they, what's their
don't
social
gamble.
situation? So there's so much to cover that it's easy to never
I
quite
put
get
subtitles on
to
closed
saying,
captions. Sorry,
do you think
Chad.
you might have ADHD?
Got there. finally.
So I can understand why it often gets
Oh,
missed.
God.
And then we've also got the fact that
Why is that not black?
when I started in
Why is
GP,
it
adult
so hard
ADHD
to
in the
see?
UK was not felt to be a thing.
Mm.
We'd get the old American patient come over with a diagnosis of adult ADHD, and
I don't know why you
in
can't
an
see
arrogant
that.
way would sort of go,
Sorry,
"Ugh,
chat.
they overdiagnose ADHD in America, don't they?" And we've had to learn a lot.
Be worse.
So
Hi, Joe.
I think there's still a lot of
you.
undiagnosed ADHD, and sometimes patients are coming and saying, "I think I might have it," which is really helpful. But sometimes neither patient.
Chat, let me see if I can fix, because I think it's probably more distracting than helpful to have closed captions that are just flashing there that you can't actually see. I'm not sure how to fix it. Subtitles, closed captions on. Why is it dim? Like me. Chat, let me know. I'll leave them on for now. If they're worse than better, I this is as far as my tech skills go. If you hate it, I'll take them away. Okay? It's cool.
Patient nor doctor has even thought about it. And I can think of some of my patients that I've known quite a while, and only in recent years become so much more aware of ADHD that actually thought, goodness, why didn't we spot this years
Hi,
ago?
Lord Tuber.
Particularly women. And now it just seems so obvious that you've got ADHD, and yet neither of us even considered it 5-10 years ago. And so we need to do better. We are doing better, but we need to do better still.
I mean, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Women and girls have been missed for so long.
Yeah.
So many are now finally realizing that there's a reason for their overwhelm and the burnout, and why so many people that they know are just gliding through life and progressing, and yet they seem to struggle.
Yes.
Do you remember when you started as a GP, what you thought of ADHD, and how does that compare to what you think of it now?
Yeah, I do. And I'm sort of ashamed to say in many ways how it was viewed when I first qualified, and some of my own prejudices. So it was very definitely the naughty boy stereotype. And if I'm going to be really honest about my own prejudices, it sometimes seemed like, it sounds awful to say this, but I have to be honest how I sometimes felt at the time, like there were parents who just couldn't really parent their children, who wanted them labeled ADHD, give them a drug, and then that will perhaps calm their behavior. The idea of girls with ADHD.
Pause. Kelly, I'm a law nerd. I very rarely get into Emily D. Baker's live streams live, but I was very excited to catch the tail end of the preterm motions for Karen Reid yesterday, my time, and did my members milestone chat for 11 months. I don't think she read it out though, but I'm not sure. Perhaps I'll be sad. I think it'll be very close to 12 months. So she's my second longest membership. Love. I have a law nerd sticker on my peasant work hard hat. Facts, not fuckery, right?
barely a concept. And the idea of adults with ADHD was just, it was felt to be something that you grow out of. That was certainly the impression that's what I was taught. I mean, it's fascinating with autism. I remember as a medical student, and this didn't last long, but I remember being taught that autism was a childhood form of schizophrenia.
Really? Wow.
Which is extraordinary. I mean, thankfully that's long gone. I think ADHD even in the last 5 to 10 years, it's changed massively. And even in the last 5 years, it's changed massively how both patients and doctors are seeing it. And it's fascinating how that's come about, because I think a lot of it is a ground up movement, the sort of thing you're doing. Getting the word out there that ADHD does exist. It is a thing, that it can.
Hi, the trial channel. Good to see you. When I first said I think I had ADD, all my friends said, yeah, no shit. I was 23. No one told me. Yeah, that's how I felt when I realized that I was autistic. And then not immediately the ADHD. The ADHD for me took probably another 12 months for the penny to drop. Because I didn't fit that stereotype of, either the Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory or, the hyperactive boy. I was very well behaved and very precocious as a child, but I think now looking back, that was all masking and everything else. Like these videos, man, I was like, these 2 videos we're watching tonight kind of made me feel a little sad, to be honest, because there's things, particularly the time blindness one, man. The time blindness, oh my God, like my life is just so hard because of it. My fucking brain.
As your book says,
wait, he said about ADHD.
A ground up movement, the sort of thing you're doing. Getting the word out there that ADHD does exist. It is a thing, that it can, as your book says, make sense.
Yeah.
And a key thing with, if someone comes to me and says, oh, I'm wondering if I might have ADHD or autism, a really key question is to go back and say, okay, looking back, how long do you think this has been an issue? Because if someone says, well, the last 2 or 3 years, well, it's probably not.
Pause. ADHD. Simi's got to go and make dinner. Extra cheese, I hope. I made lasagna last night. Oh my God, with extra cheese. Oh, so good. So proud of myself. Wow.
Either of those, then it's probably burnout and anxiety and something else. Whereas when someone goes, you know what, I look back and it might explain this and it might explain that, and all these different steps. It's an interesting time because there are a lot of conditions in medicine that can be both underdiagnosed and overdiagnosed. So I think the menopause is something that's changed a lot recently.
Ooh,
and that's something that can be both underdiagnosed and ignored, and women not being given the treatment that they need. But potentially you could overdiagnose it. You could ascribe everything to any woman who's age 50. It must be the menopause, when, actually you are allowed to have other things happen to you when you're 50.
Yeah.
So we've got to try and get it right. And I think with ADHD, it's important to help people get a diagnosis if that's what it
Karen,
is.
good to
But
see
obviously
you.
it's a clinical diagnosis.
I'm happy
There's
you made it
no
live.
definable single test. So labels can be very helpful if they're the right label, but obviously there's the danger that you might apply the wrong label. And yet I certainly don't subscribe to the idea that, it's become fashionable, everyone's got ADHD. I don't think that's a nonsense. There's an obvious undiagnosed hump of people who need to be able to get themselves diagnosed when they should have been many, many years ago.
85% of people who listen to this podcast are women.
Just a reminder, have you hit the like button? And replay crew, don't forget to leave a comment. And live chat friends, leave a comment after the stream has ended. Please share this out. Let's get us out into the algorithm. And yes, that.
And in their 30s,
I'm trying to
40s,
be more
50s, 60s,
professional. Can you
all
tell?
coming to terms that they've gone for so many years with
Yikes.
probable ADHD or ADHD. And they're looking back through their life with this new lens that they have and trying to make sense of past decisions and past versions of themselves, and trying to add color and context to that relationship they had when they were, in their 20s that went wrong, or that new job they maybe shouldn't have taken, or that hobby they started and abandoned.
Thank you, colours.
RSD is the one that comes up, time and time
Tell
again.
me if this is better,
Achilles heel
colours.
often in
The video's
so many
bumped as
people's
loud as you
story,
can go.
the debilitating consequence of a rejection or a perceived criticism. It's like a dagger, right? The tiniest comment, and it's like a dagger, and someone twists it. If people are looking back through their life and they've been missed for so long, they're trying to work out what the actual consequences are of going years and years and years without an awareness. What do you think the effect is on particularly women
Perfect.
and girls of years and years and
Thank
years
you.
of being misdiagnosed,
Always
not
tell me, 'cause I
diagnosed,
can't tell.
misunderstood?
I think
I love feedback.
I mean, particularly for women, I think often it has had a huge effect on relationships. And certainly I think about patients of mine who've been diagnosed later. Broken relationships is a theme, and not because they're not great people who you could imagine being able to form good relationships, but because they didn't recognize they had ADHD and neither did their partner, and then they haven't really known how to handle a relationship, and their partner hasn't understood either, and it's broken. So I think broken relationships are a big thing, and like you say, with work as well. I think it's really interesting as to what might be the barriers, and I'd quite like to talk about the language that doctors use, because when I use language in the consultation, I like it to pass two tests. So one is that the words should make sense and should mean the same to the patient as they do to me. And the other is that they should feel how I hope they would feel as a result of the language. So if I think about ADHD, I think the two Ds bother me. So disorder. So many mental health conditions are called disorders in a way that we don't do with physical disease. And many people quite rightly say, look, I don't like being described as disordered. And I know what you feel, and sometimes it feels a bit disordered, but to be labeled with a disorder.
I'm going to take that a little bit further and say that I don't like when he says people who have ADHD and autism. I prefer I have ADHD and I am autistic, because autism neither is ADHD, but isn't something you just can carry around and then put down and pick up at your leisure. So I prefer I have ADHD, don't love the disorder part, nor the deficit part, because God knows I'm focused on everything all the fucking time, except the time. And ASD, it's going to be a hard no from me. I am autistic. I have ADHD.
It's not really how I'd want someone to feel about themselves with this understanding, this new understanding that might come with a diagnosis. And the other D,
British.
deficit.
Both.
I think that one's fascinating because doctors generally have come up with these terms. And if you've got ADHD and I'm trying to assess you and you're not focusing on me, I might well...
Dave, don't feel stupid. We are just gonna let the jargon wash over us and get the general gist. And you could always ask in the chat, and somebody might be able to help you with things. Not that any of us, well, I don't think any of us are GPs or doctors in the chat. I'm not diagnosing, just learning, along with all of you, learning and spreading the word. Or there's always Dr. Google. But we get the general gist. The specifics don't necessarily matter. So
well decide.
I mean, like they do, but don't let it discourage you, Dave. We're all friends here.
You've got a deficit of attention because you're not giving me the attention I expect. And so I describe it as a deficit. Whereas I suspect for you, it doesn't feel like a deficit at all. It feels like you've got an attention, everything's demanding your attention. So you've got an excess of attention. It's just trying to focus it. That's the challenge.
This guy.
So, and yet we describe it as a deficit. And then with RSD, I think the R and the D, rejection and dysphoria. Dysphoria, perhaps a little bit technical.
So are you familiar with rejection sensitivity dysphoria? You may well be familiar with the sensation, the feeling of being hypersensitive to perceived or actual rejection in your lifetime. Let this marvelous doctor, what's his name? Fuck, I should know. Dr. Martin him. Let him explain it a bit, but yes, that.
But as long as you understand that it's sort of that your mood and your emotional reaction is problematic or causing you problems, then maybe you can get around that. Rejection, that makes sense. But the sensitivity word, that doesn't leave people feeling like I'd want them to feel, because many people.
Wait, Akasha, the ADHD of it all.
With features of RSD, I've been accused, as you've said on this podcast, of being too sensitive. Oh, stop being so sensitive. So, and what are the problems with these names? I mean, we're kind of stuck with them, but I think they put people off sometimes. I don't want to be described as being sensitive. So therefore, I'm not going to consider that I might have RSD cluster of symptoms because I can't go there. particularly because if you've got RSD, being, even a whisper of being told you're sensitive might well trigger your RSD. So, and, similarly with ADHD, we're kind of stuck with it. But I would encourage people to say, look, if you don't like the label, maybe just reframe it in your own mind. You don't have to apply that word to yourself, even if you then go and say, yeah, I do have ADHD, but I like to call it whatever you find makes you feel right about it.
Totally agree. It's like, particularly for children who are really young and they get diagnosed, or they think that they have ADHD and they read that they're disordered at such a young age. It's so damaging.
Yeah.
Do you think there's two types? Do you think there is because it's quite easy to separate?
I remember when I first had the dawning realization that I absolutely was autistic. And then the ADHD thing didn't bother me at all, because I love to have answers, and knowledge is power. But I wasn't concerned with the labeling, Karen, for myself. I did feel like suddenly I was pigeonholed into rejection sensitivity dysphoria. I did feel like I was pigeonholed all of a sudden. That feeling didn't last long. I felt this grief. I grieved for going from being unique and quirky and there's only one me to feeling like, oh wait, there's heaps of people like me. I've come to realize that there's still nobody like me, but we're all in the same neurodivergent tribe, and it's fucking amazing. Yes. Now, I have included, before we keep going, I have included an article. If you're more of a reader or you like to back up your watching and listening, learning with some text, there's an article in the description box which talks about, wait, let me just double check. I don't even know. Something ADHD and trauma, I think. So there's that as well. But yes, rejection sensitivity, dysphoria, RSD, all the acronyms, right? All the acronyms.
The sort of stereotype of what we think ADHD is, which is like the loud, naughty boy syndrome, compared to what many people experience it today as very internalized, can be very still, lots of internalized hyperactivity.
Yeah.
Do you think there are two types of ADHD? One is the physical hyperactivity, and one is very internalized?
I think there's probably a whole range, isn't there? And how much is it?
To clarify, there are, I believe at this point, 7 categories of ADHD, one of them being inattentive, which is the old ADD, that inability to focus and the off with the pixies. My personal ADHD is Ring of Fire ADHD. You can Google it. There's 7 types of ADHD. Ring of Fire, when they do scans of the brain, different forms of ADHD show different things in the MRI, something picture of the brain. And mine is like Ring of Fire is a literal hot ring around the image of the brain, bright red, of perpetual activity. It's exhausting, the spinning plates of it all.
An issue of focus, how much is it an issue of hyperactivity? So I think those would be, I suppose, 2 ends of the range.
Hi, Piney, good to see you.
Yeah, definitely. And you talked about how many women are being diagnosed late, and I think the other group that are being diagnosed late are the, if you like, well-behaved boys. In other words, at school they had ADHD, but they were behaving.
Yes, Akasha. Wait for the next video. We will get there. Absolutely. I hope we get to watch all of it. I'm always, my eyes are always too big for my stomach in terms of what we choose to watch with our videos. But yes, and I pause all the time. The next one is specifically about ADHD and trauma and the correlation. I just thought this was helpful foundational stuff for us to have some light bulb moments, to feel heard and seen, or maybe to have some revelations, and then we'll move on to the next one. I might even quit this before the end of this podcast and move to the next one, and you can watch the rest at your leisure because it's linked in the description box.
Behaving themselves, so no one noticed. And similarly, they many times have got into adulthood and not been diagnosed, and they're probably because they're not the loud type. Maybe their impulsivity they're able to control, so they don't end up doing some of the things that cause huge trouble and get them really noticed. And yet they struggle to focus.
Jessica says, I think everyone has a little ADHD in them. I'm not sure if you're being facetious, if you're because that's generally a bugbear for most people who suffer suffer and live with and manage ADHD and or are medicated for it. Of course, everybody has little quirks, little things with their brain that are unique to them and have similarities to ADHD. But I think when it becomes a mountain, when every single thing or almost every single thing it resonates with a person and it affects their life, it's not just that everybody has a little bit of ADHD in them. It's that, okay, so I actually have ADHD. I'm a firm believer that, and this is backed up by nothing but my own belief, that ADHD and autistic are same, and that there's an overlap that's almost 100%. Just a speculation.
The focus in tasks, they find it hard to prioritize.
Like I think we've all got all of it.
Aware of
As in all us neurodivergents.
doctors, for instance,
I could be wrong.
GPs who late in life diagnosed with ADHD, and all of a sudden it kind of makes sense why they've struggled to order their.
So ADHD is now the diagnostic criteria. It's called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in the DSM-5. ADD is now called inattentive ADHD, and it's one of those 7, Dave.
Their clinics. They might go on a home visit and they get so hyper focused on the home visit that they turn up an hour late for their first patient
Good to see you.
in the afternoon, and the surgery's going nuts, saying, "Well, where are you?" And everyone's cross with them, and they think, "Oh, well, I was just trying to help. She needed some food, so I made her a sandwich." And you're thinking, "Yeah, but that's you got carried away there." And then maybe it would explain why their surgery might run smoothly, but if they get interrupted, they can drop the ball, and so they need and yet. They've obviously performed well at school because they've gone to medical school and they've qualified as a GP and they've functioned very well, but they would have functioned better had they known from the outset. So,
as someone who's been part of that medical evolution of how the medical world views ADHD, like you said at the beginning, you had that opinion.
Karen, I know for me personally, Karen asks, do you think these conditions or symptoms are worse when there is high stress? I know my sense of overwhelm and my feeling of overwhelm, my feeling of everything, my sensory overload for external stimuli, the overwhelm or overall, my ability to manage myself, manage my time, manage my everything is my mental health then is always more highly affected when there's more shit going on, and I'm far more prone to meltdowns then. I haven't had a meltdown for a while, touch wood. But I'm mindful because I'm also not medicated. So I'm mindful to do everything I can, like set boundaries, take quiet time, be kind to myself, know what to steer away from when I'm feeling more stressed to make sure I don't go into meltdown and by default then sometimes shut down. But then, yeah.
Opinion of it, and now you have it's evolved. If someone asked you today to describe what is ADHD, what would you say?
Ooh. I try not to use words like deficit and disorder. I'd say it's how your brain works, that the brain is wired differently in everyone, and it can change. It's not fixed, but with ADHD it often is wired a little bit differently. I like the term wired for interest over importance. I think that's quite a helpful way of thinking, that actually if something interests you, you will go with it and grab it. But
wired for interest over importance. So then there's that pathological demand avoidance, which, even if something is absolutely imperative that needs to be done, if your brain goes, bleh, nah, I can't, it hurts my brain, I can't, there's some sort of invisible blockage and barrier. There's so many acronyms. Well worth doing some research into this further, and we'll do more streams on all of this stuff. But yeah. But
if it's, no matter how important it is, if it's not interesting, you may well find that very difficult. And I like to, it's interesting, another expression that's sometimes talked about neurodiversity is a spiky personality. And this,
I like to think of myself more as being rather bristly. I get he's going to explain that he doesn't mean it the way I mean it. I can get very spiky, very bristly. Like I needle at things. I have a low tolerance when I'm feeling overwhelmed. and I try to I lose all my softness in my communications, mostly in written communications, and I'm aware of it, and I can't fake it.
I think is a good way, but again, that's a word I don't really like. And first time I heard it, I thought, gosh, you think of a spiky person, that implies that they're prickly, that they might be hard to get on with, which is not what it's. Yeah, exactly. So it's not, doesn't make you feel
I love
right.
that trial channel.
But what that's trying to say is that if you did a personality test, you would have highs and lows rather than them all being quite average. So I think I'd say to someone, if they've got ADHD, they probably have more strengths and more areas to watch out for than average, and that can be both very helpful and also very challenging. And some of their strengths will be ability to really run with new ideas. I think it might be a stereotype to say that all people with ADHD are naturally creative. I suspect that's too big a stereotype, but it might help creativity and spontaneity, and being adaptable to change can be tremendous. There's some people where if you suggest, ring them up, say, do you want to go for coffee? I'll think, oh, but you didn't book it in at least a week ago. I can't possibly do that. Someone with ADHD probably just go, yeah, off we go.
And then someone who's heavily autistic also might go, I'm not going to go anywhere. Thanks, introvert. Thanks for the invitation. But no, that sounds like I'd rather stick forks in my eyes, both of them at the same time, and twist them around. I can flip on a dime. I don't know about you, chat. Can you change if plans change? You okay? I can. I'd prefer not to. I just need to have a plan. If it changes, we'll run with it. But I need to have some parameters and some gray areas, and ambiguity and uncertainty does not work for me. Hate surprises. Hate last minute shit. Hate rushing. Being rushed. It's going to be a no for me every time.
As long as they.
But then the irony of being also time blind and spending all my life eventually rushing the fuck out of everything. Yay.
They like the idea. So it can be tremendously positive and exciting to be around. But on the other hand, they might go off for coffee with you and forget that actually they were meant to get their essay in, and they don't do it tonight and get kicked off the course.
It's genetic, right?
It has challenges as well.
Have you personally become better at spotting undiagnosed ADHD? And if so, what would you look for in a person if they come to you distressed? No, wait, pause. This is a really important point, Karen. Here's the thing. Quite many, and I think that's in the next video we're watching, but many neurodivergent folks have trauma, and many of them, then that trauma causes them to act out, right? Or there's some correlation, with the naughty child in school, or the child who's misunderstood or doesn't quite fit in, ending up as an adult who perhaps end up in the legal system. Then the legal system, so that's a neurodivergent sort of brain. Not always. This is not a hard and fast rule, but then the court system is absolutely structured and neurotypical in its design. It's very rigid, and rigidity in schooling and society in workplaces in the court system doesn't suit neurodivergent brains. So there needs to be some flexibility to cater for different kinds of brains, both in school and in the legal system, in the justice system. In workplaces, 100%.
Definitely. But then I was, like all GPs, probably starting from a low base 20 years ago. So there's a lot more I could learn about it. I think it's listening. Having your antennae, as a GP, you need to have intuition and sort of your antennae up. And I think mine are more attuned to ADHD than they used to be. And certainly, if I'm finding it hard to keep up with someone's conversation, then that's maybe that now raises thoughts in my mind now. But it's not all about that by any means. I think listening to a story and thinking back and thinking, well, how long have there been challenges for you is a key thing. I guess there also will be people who've ended up, I suppose this probably relates particularly to men, but again, it's a stereotype, but there will be male patients who maybe have had trouble with alcohol or drugs or getting into trouble with the law, or, and actually no one's ever really appreciated that ADHD is the big reason behind that. They've always just
there it is, Karen. I should have just let it play.
So trying to look for, why did you get to that place, rather than just well, you're drinking too much. That's the problem. You know, what led to that?
Mm.
One of the challenges as a GP is you do.
No offense,
You know, your appointments,
I
they're not really
thought
10
so.
minutes these days, they're more like 15, but still not very long. But over
Jessica. I felt that because it's such a trope, right? When you said everybody's got a little bit of ADHD in them, it's such a trope. And you already said you felt like you'd found your holy grail. I knew that. I guess my explanation was more for replay crew or for anybody else, the people who don't actually have ADHD and say those things because they want to gaslight and diminish the lived experience of people who do have ADHD. No offense, none at all. We're pretty cruisy around here, man. We take we take this stuff seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously.
over time, if you have a series of 15-minute appointments over a long period of time, you can really get to know someone. And actually, one thing I love about being a GP is you don't discharge your patients. You know, they might move away, but you don't ever say, right, I've finished that. You're discharged now. And so you get to know someone over potentially 20 years, maybe even longer. And then you can really build a picture of someone. And that's tremendously helpful in trying to spot these underlying patterns.
You mentioned prejudice earlier. And you said yourself, you had prejudice towards letters, those 4 letters. I certainly did when I got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Brilliant medical community.
So I think this is really important. The stigma, the prejudice in society and even amongst ourselves. I've said this a million times. The first time anyone said to me, have you ever been diagnosed for autism? I'm like, I'm not autistic. Please, like, how dare you? That's assault. I was so utterly offended. And I get it. It took me a good 18 months to get my head around it and for it to percolate in my brain that I probably was, and then get in there and do the research and confirm it for myself. And the ADHD then was a much easier step for me. But I think that's a lot of people's problems there. They don't want to have that label. They don't want to be pigeonholed. They the tropes have been deeply ingrained in our society. It's changing, but
so many of us have caught up and that prejudice has been disproved, or our minds have been changed, but for so many people it hasn't. And unfortunately it hasn't, and it's still there. Do you ever see ADHD in a child and propose the idea to the parent, and the parent has that prejudice?
Absolutely. I think probably schools do even more. My wife is a primary school head teacher, so I hear it from her, because parents often don't want their child to be labelled, and you're also still learning about your child. You know, when a child goes to primary school, they might only be 4, so there's still a lot to learn about them, and to try and diagnose ADHD in a 4-year-old.
Jessica says, I hate rushing too and being woken up right before my alarm goes off, walking behind people, walking very slowly. I also have high anxiety in crowded places. I have a service animal and she helps. I love that for you, Jess. I love that for you. My dogs are they're my support dogs. They're also the bane of my existence at times. Same for all of that. I set my alarm extra early. Well, I mostly wake up at 2 a.m., but that's a whole different story. I set my alarm on weekdays for 3:30 a.m. To give myself enough time to take my mornings slowly. Again, time blindness. It always comes to bite me in the ass at the other end of the 3 hours. So that destructive support dogs, right, Princey? Oh my goodness, these bloody idiot dogs. Dingleberries they are. Kelly says, EDB encouraged me to be diagnosed ADHD, but trying to learn about my autistic son made me realize I was likely autistic as well. That's it. Yes, that's very common in middle-aged or older adults, any adult, women, and men, but more so women. And I hope that starts to change. Like it's cool understanding yourself and embracing the reality of your brain. Like, honestly, that's where I was born. That was my rebirth. December 2019. Love 1010. Love.
4-year-old is very different to in an adult or even an older child, and they're worried about their child being labelled and held back. So I think probably, particularly in school, it can be an issue. I think probably the assumption that if you get diagnosed with ADHD, that's going to mean medication. And, well, I don't want my child taking drugs. and
I'd love to
therefore
take drugs.
not
Give me all the
pursuing that, is a shame. And I think it's interesting. That's the reason why a lot of people don't go and see their GP about depression or anxiety, because they think all GPs are going to do is prescribe medication. And
Interesting, Jess. I'm a Cancer, which makes the whole RSD thing very fucking problematic, because tough exterior, very soft inner shell, total homebody. Look, hey, look, we've got new prompts. Ah, yes. Matilda, they work. Good work. Please visit my brand new merch store, apparel, drinkware, stickers, and way more. So cool. So much cool stuff. We have like 200 items on the store. If you haven't looked in a week, go and look. Matilda is like a fucking merch store machine. She and I together, good God, we're building a monster. I've created a monster in Matilda. She's obsessed. I'm obsessed. So good. So good. And don't forget, all proceeds from the merch store go to paying the mods, my beautiful mod squad. But for the free Karen Reed related stuff, that stuff goes to Karen's Defense Fund, the proceeds. So nothing goes in my pocket. Very good cause.
I like to think that's not the case. There's so much more. And also, it's always an informed choice. So it's certainly not all about medication, although for some children, medication can make a massive difference to their schooling. I think in adults, it's different, because some adults have a conversation and think, actually, I think I might have ADHD, but I don't want to pursue a diagnosis. There was an interesting TV program of Bill Gates the other day, who now thinks he would have been diagnosed with autism. And he thinks he probably has autism, but he sort of said, well, I don't need a referral or a diagnosis, because now at my age, I kind of know myself well. I know how I tick, and I'm comfortable with it, and it works. So I don't need that revelation.
Hi,
so I kind of
Holly.
worked it out.
Good to see you.
And I think some adults can just think, yeah, I think I've got some traits. I don't want to pursue a formal diagnosis, but it's helpful to think about it. While others, really, it can be a revelation to think, yeah, actually, I do have ADHD, or I do have autism.
I am autistic.
Then the emphasis is what you're going to
please.
do about that.
Embrace it, love the fuck
it just
out
involves an awful lot of learning.
If you have ADHD, one thing that comes with it is the famous ADHD intuition. And my ADHD intuition.
Pause. What I'm going to do, because I want to get to the trauma thing. Okay. Hi, Holly, by the way. I want to get to the trauma live stream. So we've only gone through, if this is piquing your interest, please go to the description box, give ADHD Chatter podcast a subscribe. And this particular episode is linked in the description box, as is the next one we're going to watch. But before we go to that, because I'm such a professional, I'm going to show you this Venn diagram. This is in the in the description box. This is the article I was talking about. Can I make it bigger? That's what she said. Let me see. Hang on. Hold your horses, chat. I'll make it real big. Move myself over for a sec. See, look at me. I'm so fucking professional. Can we make it any bigger? Maybe. All right. So this is in the article anyway, right? Oh, hi, Himza, by the way. Sorry, I meant to say hi. Bill Gates also has a shit ton of money, so he can make accommodations for himself. Most of us aren't that lucky, right? I made an accommodation for myself yesterday. There was no work with the crew that I normally work with. I'm a casual paid worker, and normally the boss would scrounge around, because I'm a crew leader. I'm the team leader. I'm the boss of my role. Normally he tries to give me a shift somewhere else, and I knew I needed a day off. I knew I was starting to circle the drain, right? So I just said, hey, even though it affects my income, because I'm a casual paid worker, I said, hey, don't worry about finding me a shift for tomorrow. I need the day off. I spent the entire day in my pajamas, didn't speak to another human. You can zoom on your screen. Thanks, Karen. Of course. Yes, that. So I made my own accommodations, and I feel great for it. Having said that, like I said earlier, for the first time ever, I have puffy bags under my eyes. What is even that doing? So let me go back to this screen. Here. So we've got the link between ADHD and trauma and Buster. So in ADHD, you see hyperactivity, impulsivity, and forgetfulness. In trauma, you see dissociation. Let me say that again. Dissociation. We're going to have to tolerate the amazing blanket trigger warning, but the amazing guest on the next video we're about to watch. Same host, different guest. She says disassociation, and I can't with that. It's a bugbear of mine. It's dissociation. Anyway, trauma has dissociation, nightmares, flashbacks, and sudden bursts of anger. The overlap for both is agitation and irritability, disorganization, poor self-esteem. You can work on that. I have problems concentrating, inattention, distractions, not me ever distracted, like ever, and difficulty with work, school, sleep, etc. Like, ching, my brain. I fall asleep immediately every night of my life. It could be because I have 3 to 5 hours sleep every night, because the other end of that, I wake up and my brain goes, hey, Miss Shorty music. Yeah. Hey, speak of Miss Shorty music. So this whole article, it says stuff about stuff, the link between ADHD and trauma. But then the guest in the next video is going to, the Blair Witch of it all. That, if you want to read, and you can do your own research if this is interesting to you. Now, let me cancel. Discard changes. I'm so profesh. What kind of a weirdo are you? I'm just me. Simi's back, but forgot to bring cheese. She ate it all in her cheeseburgers. Let me get you a song, just one to cleanse the palate, and then we'll go into the next one's kind of heavy. What do we got? Thank you, Joey, for uploading more sound bites.
Today, Junior.
Not that one.
Now some music. The supreme leader decrees it.
Let me just pick one. This is one that someone. Anyway, let's do this one. This.
You're amazing. This is crazy. You can't make this shit up. You've got this. Yeah, you're doing it. Girl, keep your chin right up. Sticks and stones may break my bones. With words they try to cut me. Using vulnerabilities kills them that they ain't me. The thing is though, nothing they say is something I ain't processed. Shadow work, demons head on time in the darkest recess. You're amazing. This is crazy. Can't make this shit up. You've got this. Girl, you're doing it. The only way is up. Come at me, bro, yes, keep it up. Your venom fills my chalice. Pigs be mucking in the muck. Miss Shorty in her palace. You're amazing. This is crazy. Can't make this shit up. You've got this. Girl, you're doing it. So just keep your chin up. Big lips, 4-inch cleavage. Probably back on drugs. That's her lashes. Vote most flirty. Her name even Lisa. Green card, stole our brother, grifter #1, irresponsible YouTube creator, on and on and on. Sticks and stones may break my bones. With words they try to cut me. Using vulnerabilities kills them that they ain't me. You're amazing. This is crazy. Just let them make shit up.
Just that. A feel good song. That's for all of us. Maybe not the stuff about the 4-inch cleavage. Yikes. Here, let me see. Present. Let's do the next one. So yes, this so my lyrics, AI music. Hey, wait, I have a whole new music channel. It's called Miss Shorty Music. One of the mods will drop it in the chat. Please go and subscribe. Joey's been doing amazing work compiling at my request 3 songs together like an EP. I've just started. There's only like 13 subscribers there. Let's make it happen. I could stop spamming you all with my never with my music on this channel. But yes. Good to see you, Carrie. Sorry, hi. The music was playing. Trial channel, yes. Go do your time stamping. You have important public service work to do with your time stamping. Holly's subscribed. Yes. Love the EP compilations. They're great. There it is. Miss Shorty Music. Yes. So this next one is it's really important conversation. She's very matter of fact. The guest here, let me pull it up. Her name is Ella McChrystal. She's great accent. Let me do it. Do the thing. So subscribe to my music channel. Did it, done. Thanks, Carrie. Yes. And share it out. It's good music, if I do say so myself. Wait, okay. Share screen. Here we go. Big sigh like Bev. So if at any point this gets a little too much for you, step away. She's very matter of fact about the trauma she's lived through. But it's not heavy going. But there are moments that kind of come out of nowhere. I'll try to yes, trial channel. I'll give me a sec, Simi. I'll do the trial channel in a sec. Yes. We'll have to do the trial channel, Matilda, into our stream elements if that's okay, because love the trial channel. I'm currently watching the Monica Seamantelli trial. It was uploaded a month ago, but I'm getting there. I'm watching 2 trials at the moment. Lol. Are we there?
Most people with ADHD carry trauma because you've always been told you're not enough.
That's not me.
All of the
YouTube
cells
fucks
in your
with
body,
me.
like a military operation.
Thanks, Joey.
Certain cells will gather in certain places in your body to be prepared. So really, your body gets stuck in a state of preparedness. If you think about always being prepared for something going wrong, that is exhausting.
Did I start it in the middle of on purpose? No, I didn't. Is that typical? Yes.
This episode is dedicated to anyone who has ever felt lonely.
Wait, let me get to the thing. Okay.
3 facts. Why was it important for you to come on here today? And what do you think the audience will learn from listening to you?
One of the sort of most important things that I really like talking about, especially...
So let me tell you who she is. Ella is... Oh, look, it's all time-stamped. Beautiful. She's a fully trained and accredited psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, EMDR certificate, and business coach, certified and business coach. So, and with lots of life experience. Really amazing woman. That's her. This is also linked in the description. Okay.
Especially for women, I guess, that have gone through sexual abuse and also might think they have an ADHD diagnosis in the future, perhaps, is the differences between the two things, the complex PTSD and trauma, but also the similarities between ADHD and trauma, because it's an area where I believe that ADHD can be really useful when you've got trauma, but can also be quite detrimental if you don't understand yourself. So I guess part of it is getting people to understand themselves that have had both. And most people that I've met with ADHD have had both trauma as well as an ADHD diagnosis. They kind of go hand in.
So again, trauma to me, and Ella says this at some point in this episode, has no hierarchy. It can be extreme trauma at one event, like, I don't know, a big old car crash, being a victim of a crime, it could be more insidious and repeated serious stuff, like, for example, childhood sexual assault, abuse, neglect, or it could be less so. Like I personally had a very privileged childhood, a very cold and austere and not very love filled, like my parents referred to me as the girl to my face, and when speaking about me, I'm adopted. But so I've done a lot of and to not gaslight oneself to think, well, but I wasn't sexually assaulted as a child or as an adult or young adult or any time, or I wasn't in a war-torn country, or I didn't live in poverty. Trauma is trauma. So while she has some pretty extreme experiences, just remember that your trauma is valid. If it's affected you, it matters and it's valid. Okay.
Hand in hand. Obviously, some things are external, but I think sometimes the way that we are treated growing up can be quite traumatic. So I think that's the bit that I really wanted to talk about today.
I'll stay on top of it.
So interesting. I mean, I guess if we were to lay the foundation onto the differentiating between those two, trauma and ADHD, and I'm sure there's lots of overlap there. In developmental psychology, what is a trauma? How would you define one?
Pause. Good question. Tim, I think his name is. Joe, I think we need to remember also that he's also autistic and ADHD. And so some of those, like some of the expected socially appropriate body language things might not necessarily be applicable. Yeah, that's all. Buster wants to go outside. So the legs crossed might just be a comfort thing. Who knows? Maybe his wife said, I don't think he's married, but maybe his wife said, you're going to talk to that blonde bitch? She's gorgeous. I don't feel comfortable with that. So he's feeling very, who knows? Maybe he feels uncomfortable with what she's going to speak of, which is, sexual assault, trigger warning, by her father as a child. So, yeah, I agree that body language is important, but there's also other contributing and mitigating factors for everybody.
So I think where people get stuck with trauma is that they think it's like a clinical definition, and a lot of people think of the acute traumas. They think of car accidents or military traumas, not so much the complex traumas, which can be things like sexual abuse, it can be neglect, it can be something as simple as you fall off your bike, and instead of being held safely afterwards and nurtured, you're told that you're stupid and you're useless. If that's repeated, or similar incidents like that are repeated, your nervous system actually adapts to that. So the manifestation of the event held within the body is the trauma, not necessarily your understanding of a clinical definition. And I think within the sort of field of psychology and the way that we develop and the way that we grow, we have to take into account the brain-body system. We can't separate the brain-body system. We have to understand how integral our nervous system is. And because we're children, we often don't know it's not normal to be stuck in a traumatic feeling in our bodies until we look around and we're a bit older.
I'm sure people listening will be hearing you explain this, and they'll be thinking back and trying to isolate and remember things that happened to them when they were younger or in their early years. And when does an event, a situation happen? When does it differentiate from being a bad thing and a traumatic thing?
Important answer. We'll just pause for a moment. Colors says, I tried explaining this to my aunt and she didn't understand what I was saying. She had issues with how my mom was treated compared to her, but she had trauma too. And she said mine was worse than her. So she's kind of gaslighting herself there, and a little bit maybe martyring herself in the process. But that's also a generational thing, right, Colors? A little bit of toxic positivity. There's a whole lot going on there, but people often, like, I know myself in some of the traumas I've experienced, I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it wasn't that bad. He didn't, trigger warning. He didn't like beat me till I was hospitalized every week or anything. Like, well, you know, but also it was those, you know, my trauma has been heavy for me and complex and compound. You're all good, Rita. Don't ever apologize. Happy to have you here when you're here. So colors, I don't know. I think that's pretty common for people to kind of undermine and diminish their own traumas because they see that there's a hierarchy and that's gaslighting oneself. And if it affected me, then it was big for me, right? Because of my brain chemistry, my set of tools of how I cope with things, coping mechanisms, my environment, my situation, all of those things.
So I think some things that are bad are maybe considered sort of a form of adversity. So you could say that this was a difficult situation.
Look at
it's
you
a form
Matilda.
of adversity, but I've been able to grow through that. I had people around me supporting me through that event. I felt safe to be able to express myself after that event. The trauma kicks in when you feel very alone with it or when your needs are neglected within it. To give an example, I suppose something as simple as if you're in a car accident and the person that you're in a car accident with is shouting at you afterwards and making you feel quite scared of that confrontation. That's very different to having a car accident with somebody who gets out of the car and is able to have a conversation with you and sort of apologize, and you feel safer in their presence. And I think the bad event, which is the car accident, could be left at a feeling of a bad experience if the events that follow are managed well. And I think what becomes the trauma is when the events that follow aren't managed well, or you just don't feel like you're safe, because that's what people get stuck in, a sense of not being safe. And if they don't feel safe for a really long time, the body will eventually shut down and they'll go into dorsal vagal state, which is playing dead, disassociated, disconnected. Or conversely, they're constantly feeling like they're running from something or fighting something.
So colors, that's a bit like survivor's guilt, right? And so she's got some guilt there, and that's she probably needs some therapy, don't we all?
And they're unable to find that sense of safe connection within their body. So a bad event is really, you could say anything's a bad event. It's the following aspects to that event: how you're held, how you're seen.
So interesting. You made me think of I was in a car crash about 15 years ago on the M25, the ring road around London. And I wasn't driving, I was in the passenger seat, and we were going about 50 miles an hour. We didn't recognize that it was stop-start traffic, so we had to come to a sudden stop. But the car behind us didn't realize, plowed into the back of us. They had slowed down enough for it to not kill us. Like it was a big impact, but it wasn't like a fatal crash, luckily. And the guy got out of the car, and I remember he was so nice. He had completely crumpled our car from what it was to about half the size.
Wow.
But he was wearing this Star Wars hoodie with the picture of Yoda on it. I remember it so well. And he was so nice. And he really disarmed the situation. But then all of the other cars driving past, because our lane obviously was completely shut down, loads of other cars were driving past shouting swear words at us. Like, you arsehole, because they were annoyed that we had slowed down the traffic. And now when I'm on a motorway, I'm very fearful of long straights on a motorway.
Yes.
Because that's when these crashes happen, because people don't recognize the stop-start traffic. And the thing is, like, I realize, and you've just made me think, I'm not really scared of the impact. I'm scared of an impact happening and then people shouting abuse at me.
Yeah.
I was exposed to the nasty comments.
Yes.
And that's what has created this fear of it happening again.
And you will feel that fear in your body. You won't necessarily, you'll have a thought that you don't like those journeys, but really, what starts to happen is the cellular response in the body. And again, if you're stuck in a cellular response for a really long time, that has an impact on everything, because the processes so think of it like this. Every single time you go into a fight-flight response, you'll have cortisol running through your bloodstream. And that's processed by your organs. So your whole body now is having to process stress. And I mean, your liver, your kidneys, everything is having to process stress. That happens again and again and again. And this is where childhood and ADHD are interesting, because the amount of stress that a lot of people experience being ADHD in childhood. So their bodies get locked into this constant state of stress. Now, think about all of the cells in your body like a military operation. Certain cells will gather in certain places in your body to be prepared. So really, your body gets stuck in a state of preparedness. If you think about always being prepared for something going wrong, that is exhausting. But you're so used to it that you don't know it's not normal. So that's where I say those sort of things that could be a bad event, like you say, the man disarmed it. And actually, for that reason, that part of that event is no longer traumatic for you. The bit that you've recognized is that your body will be prepared for what people think, which also fits into rejection sensitivity. You know, that whole idea of I'm being rejected and I'm in the way. And that links into ADHD as well. So that's why I think people with ADHD are more susceptible to carrying trauma in their body.
Is there a link here to
Colours? I reckon she wants you to come to Camp Shorty therapy, and here you are showing up every week. You've got a lot on your plate with those kiddies and that husband and those animals to really have the time or the headspace for it right now. But I would suggest that maybe at some point you might like to talk to someone. Don't have to. But yeah, I agree. Colours says, my aunt says that if I don't deal with my childhood, it's going to come out in the future, but I don't really know what she wants me to do. CEG, everything I just said. Hi, Lois. Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
To perfectionism? Because I think, reflect back on why I often don't start things, and it's a fear. It's easy to just say it's a fear of failure, but I don't think I'm scared of failing, because if I try something and it doesn't work, I'm essentially in the same place.
Yeah.
I think what I'm scared of is looking bad and inadequate in front of other people.
I think so. I think because that's rejection, and rejection on a primitive level leaves you in a very vulnerable position. So I think the rejection sensitivity, and again, this fits into a lot of trauma, because again, we can relate that to the car accident. I think the rejection sensitivity is really about, if I'm rejected, I'm alone. And if I'm alone, I'm very vulnerable. And if I'm very vulnerable, then essentially all sorts of horrible things could happen and I could die. We have this sort of, if you think about a baby, if a baby is rejected and abandoned, it's going to die because it's got no safety. So really everything's about safety here. There's a real, and I think this is where control and perfectionism come in. If I can control this situation by being perfect, which is an illusion anyway, or my version of perfect, if I can convince everybody else I'm perfect, then I won't be rejected, I won't be vulnerable, and I won't be then open to attack and essentially death. You know, it's all very, very primitive, which leans.
Strongly agree. As soon as you drop a ball or set boundaries and assert them and hold firm on boundaries, that terror of the person running it is very high. That's that they reject. It's conditioning too. Like most people, when you set boundaries, or you know, not so much fuck up, but when you set boundaries, so many times people go, "Nah, I liked you better when you weren't setting boundaries. I liked it better when I could walk all over you." And I guess in the workplace, fucking up, it could be risky. Not even fucking up, just not being perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. We're just all doing our best. It's the best we can do.
Into a lot of the theories around how ADHD people would have been great in the primitive world, because we're so tuned into survival that we'd have made great hunters and gatherers, and we would have survived really beautifully.
Exactly, Simi.
If what people believe about evolutionary science is true. So yeah, I think a lot of it is constant survival mode. And again, that is quite traumatic, to constantly be in some level of fear. So perfectionism is a maladaptive coping mechanism to keep you alive. And when you start thinking about it in those big terms, I'm actually just trying to stay alive. And then you come down from that theory and go, all right, well, I know I'm not going to die if I'm judged for being not enough. And I know that rejection hurts, but actually this is a very primitive response. I don't need to give it airtime. So it's learning to step away from those feelings.
Her name is Ella McCrystal, McCrystal. So the link to this video and the one we watched before, if you're coming in late, is in the description box, as is the link to this channel, which is called ADHD Chatter Podcast. Ella is a fully trained and accredited psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, EMDR certified, and a business coach. She's cool. I like her a lot.
But you kind of have to understand why they're there in the first place, because we could talk about rejection sensitivity all day, but really people talk about it as much as talking about the rejection and not necessarily going, why am I scared of being rejected? Yes, I'm sensitive to it, but what am I really scared of? Perhaps it's deeply embedded in my unconscious mind. Therefore, let's break it down and work it out.
Where do you think that fear comes from? I ask in relation to early year experiences. I'm talking about bullying. I put a poll out on my Instagram for the ADHD chatter community, and I very bluntly and simply said, have you ever been bullied? It didn't really define what bullying meant, but everyone gets an idea of what that word means. And 95% of respondents.
Princey, I believe it was Life Artist, and Life Artist is cooking at the moment, but also listening. I believe it was Life Artist who said they've had EMDR and it helped them very greatly. I could be wrong, my brain, but Life Artist, if you're around, let us know.
Respondents, and they had about 40,000 respondents said yes. And this is a community that hugely relate to this idea of RSD, being hated, not being enough, striving for being perfect all the time. Is there a link between school bullying and this need to be perfect when we're an adult?
Pause. Ella, she's going to say yes, absolutely. Akasha says, so it took me a long time to learn to set boundaries. Same. I work in healthcare. My boss is 100% a people pleaser. We get into a lot of arguments because she thinks I am too mean and I think she isn't mean enough. Now, that reminds me, there's a song, one of my songs called Music Is Not a Weapon, which is basically, it was you, Rita, right? Yes. Basically a transcript of a conversation that some former friends of mine had about me in their Discord. And it says, she's not as smart as she lets on. And then it says, and she's a lot meaner than, wait, what is it? I should know. She's a lot meaner than she looks. Now, I set very clear and firm boundaries. I'm never mean, but that's interesting. I just had an aha moment there that I think that probably those folks in their flying monkey bullshittery mistook my clear, firm, kindly delivered boundaries. And we did a whole live stream, Colours and I, a while back on all this bullshit. And I publicly showed my communications with these people. There's nothing mean about any of it, but it's boundaries. And I think probably that's that. I think that was that misinterpretation. Boundaries are hard, but they're important. Lois says, I'm learning boundaries too, and I'm old. It's terrifying, particularly if you're ADHD and or, thanks, Colours. No, but you're also a lot more thick-skinned than some of these, like, petals, those people, right? They were looking for an excuse too, right? To call me whatever they wanted to call me. So boundaries are terrifying when in one's experience, people leave, right? People go, no, fuck it, I'm out. She doesn't let me do whatever. Okay. Life Artist says, no, it wasn't me. And Rita said it was her. Thanks, Rita. My brain. I knew it was someone in this beautiful community. Oh, Catherine, amazing. You got EMDR? Yay. Oh my God, I love that, Catherine. I'm so happy for you. Because the flying monkeys are narcissistic. Yes, yes, yes. I love your firm boundaries. It's inspiring. It's hard work, man. People don't like it. It makes me feel I set them and I stand my fucking ground. But yes, I think that's what she meant. Not mean enough as being a pushover. Yeah, so just being a total pushover, like a doormat. You are pretty thick-skinned, right? So like there's been times with Colours while I'll apologize or or something, or like over explain myself. She's like, I don't care. Like, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, oh, thank God. I love you so much. Like, I love you for so many reasons, Colors, but one of them is that you're not so hypersensitive and reactive to me being me. Like, it's so beautiful. It makes me feel so safe and supported with you because I can just be me. What does EMDR stand for? No idea. Chat, come on now. Can someone tell me what EMDR stands for? You lose sleep sitting boundaries, right? It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It changes your brain, right? It resets your brain waves, doesn't it? And how you think, right? It goes well with what's it called? Cognitive behavioral therapy. So retraining your internal monologue, or the things you say to yourself, along with doing your brain, fixing your brain waves. Am I right? Am I talking at my ass? Ha. That's it. Colors says, I like when people state boundaries or don't beat around the bush. It makes life easier. Exactly. Setting clear boundaries both ways, right? Boundaries both ways. I want to know what the boundaries are too. So I don't want to piss someone off because I didn't know. Ambiguity is no good. No good. No good. Yeah, people don't like it. They don't like it. What they like is a pushover. That's it. People like to be someone who they can just railroad and wrecking ball through. And it's going to be a hard fucking no from me. I'm not having it. Like, I'm going to call it and I'm not having it. And I'm like, I'm going to be fierce but kind. I'm going to be as much as I can. It depends if people keep pushing those boundaries, then I'm going to put my fucking foot down, right? I just am. And wherever the cards may fall. Anyway, back to her answer. Let me go back by this, because who knows what the question was now. It's been like 5 minutes.
And they had about 40,000 respondents said yes. And this is a community that hugely relate to this idea of RSD, being hated, not being enough, striving for being perfect all the time. Is there a link between school bullying and this need to be perfect when we're an adult?
Yes. I mean, I would say hugely. I suppose most people have experienced some level of bullying at some point, but I think what maybe the ADHD or autistic community, there's always been something that's slightly different, or at least we feel like there's always been something that's slightly different. For me, looking at the perfectionist thing, I experienced bullying. I was a fat girl, so I was a target, but I also had a big mouth, so I was a target for that reason too. And I think that I was saying earlier off camera, I had this sense of justice for other people because I was kind of disassociated a little bit from myself. If I saw somebody else being picked on, I'd want to protect them. So I'd end up in situations where I was stepping in for other people. And I think that made me a target as well. So when I went to upper school, because we had 3 tiers at that point, I remember one of the first days, this girl, she just singled me out, and I must have given off some sort of energy or frequency, whatever. Yes. And it was quite horrific for the first year. She was particularly aggressive and violent, and there was a big gang of them. And I think all I wanted to do was to get her to like me.
You're doing ASMR for
so you try to please, you try to be perfect, you try to be nice, you try basically all the tools that you can possibly think of. That habit, I think, gets developed early on for most people if they're bullied. And then you do, because let's face it, if it works, which it doesn't always, but even if it works once or twice, the brain logs it as a positive mechanism.
I'm going to pause here and say that I personally was never bullied in school that I remember as a child. However, I was very people-pleasy. I was very good at being who I needed to be for the people around me, so that I went under the radar. That's, I think, quite a common thing for lots of women, children. Sometimes you can't escape it. And if you in the chat or replay crew have experienced bullying as a child or in adulthood, well, fuck, can attest to that one. Adult bullying is whole next level. It's tough. It's tough. We're here for you.
So you'll keep doing it when you feel under threat. But it's about learning what that means for you. Why do you feel under threat? Is this just cellular activity you're holding in your body? Or is there a genuine reason that you're under threat? And if you are genuinely under threat, what are the relative ways of dealing with it? Because perfectionism is a lot of hard work for very little feedback, because it's your idea of perfectionism, nobody else's. That's the problem with being perfect. It's what your perception of perfect is.
Mm.
And nobody else will agree with you because they will have a different version in their head. So it's like a pointless exercise. And yet people are stuck in that habit loop because it's worked for them before. And the brain is geared for survival. So it holds on.
Mm. Those people you were trying to protect, and therefore you made yourself a target, the people you were trying to protect, they must have given you some praise and thanks.
Yeah. I think I was that go-to personally. I suppose it became part of the
Pause. So here's where then this is just going to talk about how how being the standing up for the underdog, for the injustices. That's me, voice of the people. And I think maybe because I had to just always, and that's an autistic thing too. It's a very neurodivergent thing to feel very deeply for the injustices that happen around us, and to want to be outraged by them. But I absolutely feel good when I stand up for someone else. Maybe because as a child I didn't really ever stand up for myself, not because I was being bullied, but because I just like adapted.
The mask. Because I was, so when I started upper school in particular, everybody kind of knew my business, particularly about the sexual abuse. It'd come out very publicly in middle school, so we carried it forward. So I think a way of me disassociating from that identity of being that girl that was sexually abused by her dad, which was my story for a little while, everyone sort of knew it and talked about it a lot. I think it was really good for me to be the protector of others. It was a new mask. It was a new side to me that I could step into. And I kind of felt a bit like Robin Hood. You know, I was a bit naughty, but I was doing it for the right reasons. And I think it's a way of making friends. It's a way of being seen as a go-to person. But to caveat that, I mean, I always laughed a lot as well. I do have that kind of side to me. I'll be very, very protective of people, but also laugh a lot. And I think that...
Pause. So colours, even that in itself is trauma. Like, that's trauma. Moving, particularly as a child in formative years, is a huge stressor on the human sense of well-being. I think death of a parent or a loved one or a child, moving, changing jobs, divorce, and financial stresses are epic, like pretty seemingly benign traumas, but they're not. I mean, they're not sexual assault, they're not rape, they're not victims of a crime, but they affect you so very deeply.
That gave me some sort of validation. So again, it's no surprise that I ended up being a psychotherapist, wanting to look after people, which, it ended up being part of my identity, but it got me into trouble because again, I had a big mouth and I was a bit too forceful, I think. And I kind of liked the dopamine response from it as well. I liked looking after people. I liked that feeling of I've achieved something, so
also pause, tie that into acts of service. Like, my parents never really did anything for me. I was well looked after in terms of not spoiled, but I had what I needed, and I had it was a very high upper middle class socioeconomic family that I grew up in, very well off, one of the most well off children in my school, as an only child. But I had to do anything. If I wanted to do anything, I had to do it myself. My parents didn't really do anything for me. And I love helping. And then add that to the injustice thing, and standing up for the underdog. I think that it makes sense to me that, for me personally, helping, like, I love helping, and chat, like some of you shorties will know, like, I'm kind of over the top helpful with my money. Gen X, mad latchkey kid. And that for me is, I can't do a lot of helping on a lot of the stuff that ails people in our community, and so what I can do, even though I don't have much myself, is to help financially. If money will help a person feel a little less overwhelmed, a little less stressed, if their life will be a little more enjoyable, smooth, and if money will help that, I'll give my last dollar if it makes someone else's life better, even if it makes my life a little harder. Not that it does at the moment. That's not me what I'm saying, but Too much helping. So Akasha with you. Sometimes people tell me to back off. I can imagine that might happen with me one day. We'd be like, for fuck's sake, Lisa, keep your money. In fact, people do say that to me. I'm like, no, it's fine. Shut up. What do you want?
Seems like a good idea at the time can become very maladaptive. And also, if someone wanted to punch me in the face, there was just no fear. And I think that kind of level of having no fear, wanting to protect other people, liking the validation, building a new identity, some of those things are good, but if they're used in the wrong way, they can be very, very bad as well.
The positive comments you were getting from the people that you're trying to protect, did that counteract the negative consequences from the people that were giving you the criticism from the other side?
Yeah, I think it did, because it gave me a strength, really. I'm not good. And in fact, I don't think I can actually do this. If I think about it, I try to think about it. I'm not very good at registering emotion. So it takes me a really long time to process that I'm not okay. And I
Pause. Hi, Maiden. Look, I've got the top on. You chose the different design, but I've got one of these tops on. It's really cool. This is a small. Love, 1010. Yours has been shipped. So excited for you. Maiden won the raffle from a couple of weeks ago. Don't forget. Any super chat, super sticker, buy me a coffee, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, new membership, gifted memberships goes in the draw for a top from the Shorty merch. So many cool things. Anyway, hi Maiden, good to see you. Now what she's saying, something about something that I was going to talk about. No, I'll just let it play. God.
And I normally know I'm not okay because it's in my body.
Okay, so one's in the chat. I want one's in the chat if you are really in tune with how you're feeling and can identify your emotions and the cause of them. Two's in the chat if you have trouble with that and you only realize when it starts to manifest in either physical stuff or behavioral stuff. One's if there's no judgment. This is just an interesting exercise. One's in the chat if you're pretty or overly aware of what you're feeling and can articulate it and can identify where that's coming from. Two's if that's tough for you.
And then when I'm not so much now, but then when I do recognize I'm not okay, it's too late. I'm in a rage now. I'm not very good at spotting it before it gets extreme. So I think that strength that I was getting from being the helper and the protector enabled me to ignore or counterbalance, like you say, the fact that I was actually quite scared. And I think so one of those things I'd say about me, and particularly a lot of people I've met with ADHD and worked with, is that we're flighters. We fly away from the problem and we find another way to fill the void or to fill the problem. And I think that's what I was doing. It was easier to be the protector and the strength for other people than it was to look at what was going on for me. And I think that is the story of my life. Hence the reason going into psychotherapy was very good for me, because it enabled me to have to look at myself. You've got no choice but to, because you have to have therapy and supervision and all these things, which I still find hugely uncomfortable.
And having
Interesting. So mostly everybody says 1, but kind of like Joey, 1.5 sometimes. Like I'm hyper aware, like exhaustingly so. We still don't have this gal's accent tied down. I think it's London. Maiden's here. Maiden and Vixie. I think is Vixie still here? Yes. But then also last week we were trying to identify an accent and we didn't get there. I think that she's North London. I don't know, London. Catherine says 2, still getting there. Yes. Hi, Buster. What are you doing? Would you put dirt on my legs again? Yes. Thank you so much. I love that. Fantastic. Interesting, everybody. Interesting. I wonder where we can. I know for myself, introspection is my middle fucking name. Same with Dicey. If you know, you know. I spend so much time always thinking. My ring of fire brain, call back to the start of the episode, has me always thinking about all the stuff. I'm so aware of everything all the time, except time.
Having your experience and career now in psychology, has that given you some hindsight in how the traumatic events that you spoke about earlier, the sexual abuse, any hindsight ways that that's impacted you that at the time you didn't realize before you had this new knowledge of psychology?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a start, it made me really aware of myself. Like I was able to actually go, you know, some of the things that I was experiencing, although my behavior wasn't seen as normal, they were normal responses to those things that had happened. So to give context to that, I was sexually abused by my dad.
Interesting colors. Can you visualize things? Can you, if I said, picture a red, shiny apple, here's a nice exercise. Everybody, Jessica says too, she's still getting there with identifying feelings and emotions. Interesting. So it was probably about, I guess, 80-20 to yes, highly aware, to no, not aware. Colors says I have no internal dialogue. So everyone, chat. If you can visualize things in mind, like I can visualize things. I'm not saying I'm better. It's just how my brain is. This is not a if you're good or you're bad. I can visualize things so well that I can conjure up a flavor, a smell, anything, anything perfectly great for when I was dieting for bodybuilding competitions. So that's called aphantasia. If I visualize, there you go. It's interesting. So there's aphantasia is a neurodivergent thing. So some people have no internal dialogue, no internal monologue, none. EDB, I think, is someone. She also has no ability to visualize things. So aphantasia. I can I'm like Simi, and this is not me going, hey, I'm better. This is just interesting, right? Simi and I, like, I can see it, I can feel it, I can hear the crunch, I can taste. I can get my mouth is salivating. I can feel the tingle of the tanginess of an apple. North London, boom. Nick, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joe Schmo. We're going to go with North London. Boom, boom. Yeah, lucid dreaming. Same. Emotion says, I'll trade you my inner voice. It won't shut the fuck up. Like, I have so much of an inner voice that goes out of voice, and I talk to myself. I used to talk to myself. I always do. Got to have an expert opinion sometimes, right? But I used to have conversations with myself just a few years ago in different accents. Just, the collective, the lost souls. A smell will remind me of an event or experience. Yes, smells, sensory things can be very evocative. Take it right back there. Joe says, I have way too much of an internal dialogue. It's fact and it's irreversible. Yes. I have an inner and an outside dialogue. Yes. This is a really interesting conversation, right? My inner voice is a bit, seriously, you can retrain that stuff. That's called cognitive behavior therapy. That's retraining your self-talk. I did that. I retrained the shit out of mine. It very rarely now do I ever berate myself or say negative things to myself about myself. I occasionally still will go, I fucking hate you. I sometimes jokingly say, why am I like this? But I know why I'm like this. Neurodivergent and me. The Lisa Collective. No, it's not. It's not the Lisa Collective. That was just one person. It's the Lost Souls. It's the collective. Colors says that's trauma. Colors. I have a hard time with memory too. I know the timeline of my life, but it's hard to pull up a memory. I know the memory verbally, but not mentally. That's trauma. Yes. Jesse, you can change. Of course you can change. Yes, you can. Of course. Yes. It's okay, Jess. We're all welcome. Welcome. Oh no, I will see. That's the thing, Joe. I used to loathe myself. I did a lot of work, and now I love myself. Like, there's times when I grind my gears pretty hard, and I'm frustrated with the me-ness, not meanness, the meanness of it all. Yikes! You can't put that shit back in the horse, right? But mostly, no. I've done so much work, and I'm happy. I'm happy. Wait, God, I missed that fucking opportunity, didn't I?
It's not a deal breaker, but I'd like to know. Thank you.
Oh, I missed the whole thing. Wait,
It's good for them. I'm happy, but I just want to make sure that I am still held in the highest esteem of the system. It's not a deal breaker, but I'd like to know. Thank you.
Akasha, there are many, many YouTube videos on lucid dreaming. I remember all my dreams. All my dreams. All my dreams. My poor brain. Like my poor brain. All of them. I can remember dreams from 2 decades ago. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not joking. My poor brain. Spinning plates. But you can learn, you can train yourself to lucid dream. There's YouTube shit there if you want to. Dreams are really important. Highest esteem, poor brain. I did it before on the YouTubes. Let's get back to Ella. Poor Ella. She would understand. Ella would understand completely that we are all on topic. We are side questing. It's all relevant. It's all really helpful for us to know that we're not weirdos, that we're not crazy, that our brains are unique, but there's some similarities, and it's all good, man.
I mean, it's a bit sketchy, the actual timeline, actually, so I'm going to stay away from it because there's things that are on paper and there's things that I've remembered since, but for a long time.
Sure.
And I eventually accidentally told someone. I didn't accidentally tell them, that's not right. I revealed it through a journal that I'd kept.
There are many.
In a math class, which is hilarious because I can't count to save my life. And it sort of spread like wildfire through the...
Pause again. Sorry, Ella. Color says, I don't remember any dreams at all. Not even sure if I do. Everybody dreams, but it'll be something to do with your sleep cycles. And I'm wondering if there's a link to how thoroughly and in minute detail I receive all external stimuli, register it all, and process it all consciously, except time. And my ability to conjure up everything to perfection in my brain. I can match colors. I can match tone and tune. I'm a pretty good mimic. I wonder whether for a brain that doesn't have that ability, no judgment. You all understand. I'm not passing any judgment. We're spitballing here, chat. Side quest spitball. I wonder if you're very no internal monologue, colors, no real ability to. You can pull up an image in your brain, but it's hazy and blurry and not very well defined. Very rudimentary. I wonder if there's some link there. Are we doing science here? Like, are we doing science? Maybe we're doctors. I'm not sure. It's fucking nightmare. Yeah. Nick says, I'm happy. It's not a deal breaker, but I'd like to know. I'm happy. How do we know everyone dreams? Is that true? Yes, because they can do studies of rapid eye movement. So rapid eye movement sleep studies is when you're asleep. It's where you wake up in your sleep cycle. Yes. We do. At the moment, I am all, yeah, we're sciencing. We're actually sciencing and doctoring. Like maybe we're all psychologists. I'm not sure. Probably we're all scientists. Yay, science. Okay, Ella, I'm going to let Ella play. I'm going to try. Maybe I should turn the chat off from my vision. So distracted.
Through the class, because this journal that I'd handed to a boy, it was snatched out of his hand. So everybody finds out at school. And so from that day, my dad then was arrested, taken to prison, spent some time in prison, but my mum moved him back into the home. So, and I knew she was going to, this wasn't a big secret. So the safety element was, there was the sexual abuse. He was also quite violent and I knew he was coming back. So I didn't have any safety at all. So I became the escaper. I would, from very early on, I'd leave the house. I'd be drinking, hanging around with much, much older people, which landed me in trouble. I was raped at the age of 13 by a 20-year-old. So everything I was doing was very maladaptive. It was very much escapism. I was self-harming. I was rageful. I was not able to be present at all. I hated myself. I had huge problems with food. Any form of self-harm that you could think of, I was there. I was all for it. And I thought I was psychotic. I thought I was mental. I thought I was mad. I thought I was the problem. My mum took great joy in reminding me that I was a difficult teenager and I was a problem.
Love those kind of mothers. Love. Colors, I wonder if that's dissociation. Not diagnosing you, not a mental health professional, just spitballing. Very, very happy. I'm happy. I am happy for you that you. That's a blessing to be able to let things go and to not engage in them so much. I wonder if that's hectic compartmentalization as a coping mechanism. Love, same, but I do a lot. I'm really good at separating emotions from objectivity. Very good by necessity. Interesting colors, really interesting. Don't shut me the fuck up. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not diagnosing, just spitballing. Tell me to shut up.
Whilst taking no responsibility at all. And also, to add in another layer, I felt very sorry for my dad. I felt like responsible for his feelings. So it was easy to manipulate me. So my mum telling me I was the problem was easy because I'd already accepted that I was the problem, that he was someone that I would feel responsible and sorry for. So then I realised the level of self-hatred and the level of dysregulated behaviour, the level of emotional wildness fitted the story. If I was working with other people or studying other people or reading about this subject overall, I realised that I was very normal within that. In fact, I was probably healthier than some people within that. Then later on, when I realised I had ADHD, it made even more sense because my obsessions, my inability to let things go, my inability to concentrate, to organise, to plan, my inability to do anything other than be the creative and the daydreamer, and then have this real sort of all or nothing, completely joyful, having the best time of my life, or really, really rageful. So going into the field of psychology enabled me to really, again, because I'm a great externalizer, look at other people, and through other people I learned about myself.
This is so interesting. Are there other ways that trauma can be suppressed inside the body, like physiological suppression that people listening might be experiencing and have absolutely no idea that it is this internalized suppression of trauma?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've experienced a lot is chronic exhaustion. So again, I think that a lot of people with chronic fatigue syndrome, or used to be ME, I think that's their trauma shutting them down. So there'd be times, especially when I was younger, I mean, I would wake up from like...
Remember also, sorry Ella, mildly dirty pause, but you're gorgeous, so it's fine. Remember also at the start of the episode where or some point, I said it, I said it, we don't have to be necessarily talking about extreme, like what, trauma that gets that ranking in hierarchy as being what people, society deems acceptable to call as being trauma. Masking and being a neurodivergent, particularly an undiagnosed neurodivergent child or adult in a society that's heavily structured to suit neurotypicals, and not many accommodations, that in itself is trauma, can be trauma. And so then that exhaustion that she's talking about, which I feel in my bones, it's all linked. So this isn't just necessarily big, heavy, socially acceptable. That's not the right word, but you know what I mean. It's traumas. Trauma is trauma, right?
Like a 12-hour sleep, and I go back to sleep 12 hours. So I think the body just shuts down. Constipation is another one, not letting go. I think a lot of people that struggle to feel, you talk about things like depersonalization, they just don't feel like they're here. So they go, oh, it's associated with anxiety.
Bye, Jess.
Yes, you might have anxiety, but a lot of people that have depersonalization also have trauma. So they might not recognize that that's a trauma response. And I think also this sort of sense of...
Pause. Sorry, Ella, but I just have to. Nick and Colours are being all cute in the chat, so hang on, wait. What do we got here?
Whew. Well, analysis. Hard to keep up with. Anyway, hello everybody. I thought I'd give you a bit of a progress report. We're still in Prague. Colours and I. We've been here since Sunday. Actually, after the last live, we rendezvoused. I picked up the Salami on the way in Budapest, and we've been in Prague ever since. Colours has been meeting with our handler Poborski. I'm not privy to any of that. That's Colours' thing. It's super high level, and so we're in Prague. It's a beautiful city. We'll be leaving later today. We'll be flying out, so hopefully we'll be back by the weekend for the lives.
You made it back,
Colours will
Nick.
be flying the paraglider. We can't take domestic aircraft; it's too dangerous. Colours won't allow it. And I think she likes piloting the paraglider. She's so adept. She's like a trapeze artist up there. I had a little bit of a faux pas yesterday in the crowded skies above Prague, because I'm on the left hand side here at home, and Colours is on the right hand side where she is. So of course I was in the wrong air lane, and had a bit of a altercation with a seagull. And they are misery artists, let me tell you. I mean, they're the worst to encounter. And I don't know why. They live by the sea. They live rent free. They don't pay for food because they get all the scraps. But they just, honestly, so he wasn't
Nick.
particularly happy. I apologise, but he told me to fuck off. So Colours then just said I wasn't allowed to fly unless I absolutely have to. So she's going to be doing the piloting. So it's a bit of a trek from Prague to Camp Shorty, but I'm sure we'll get there with a fair wind. And we have, after the salami I got in Budapest, there should be plenty of that. So I'm hoping that we'll be back for Camp Shorty if Colours allows me to have a bit of a breathe. Anyway, so
Nick.
love to you all, and we'll see you soon. Don't tell anybody where we are. It's secret.
Replay crew is going, what the fuck? It's just a whole thing. Thank you, Nick. You're so funny. But then also, this is probably why you've got such high security clearances, Colours. Colours says, I cried a lot when I was younger and I never really stuffed things down. I love that. I love that for you. Bravo, ma'am. Bravo. That's not assault. I let things out in the moment, really. That's amazing. I love that. I love that. That's your let it go. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so glad that you both made it back for Camp Shorty. Amen.
Of heaviness in the limbs. I often get a heaviness in the limbs. Things like depersonalization, they just don't feel like they're here. So they go, oh, it's associated with anxiety. Yes, you might have anxiety, but a lot of people that have depersonalization also have trauma. So they might not recognize that that's a trauma response. And I think also this sort of sense of heaviness in the limbs. I often get a heaviness in the limbs and a sense of like being stuck. So although there's a lot of contradictions here, but although I will move really, really fast, sometimes it feels like my body weighs a ton. So there's a lot of contradictions within that. What I know with people with ADHD is, and having it myself, is the busyness of the brain. But because I externalize it, I don't experience the internal representation of that so much. And I think I'm more, it's a horrible word to use, but I think I'm more dead inside unless I'm externalizing. But at the same time, I'm a fidget and I'm moving, and I used to bite my nails a lot and pull my eyebrows a lot, and I twirl my tongue a lot when I'm listening to people, and I often have to sit on my hands to hold my fidgets in. So there's a lot of externalizing of what's going on, but I just don't feel it.
If you have ADHD, one thing that comes with it is the famous ADHD intuition.
So this is an ad break. That's what we need next. Sponsors. Don't you want me to do live reads of sponsorship? God damn it. Who's going to advertise with me? I disagree, Nick. I think that minor birds, MINA birds, are the worst of the worst. But they're only in Australia, I believe. So you wouldn't have those problems in Prague or Cuba. I'm going to skip through this ad. When she said about the heaviness of her limbs, that's a dissociation thing. I know in the peak of the Flying Monkeys smear campaign bullshittery, I had some very weird robot shit going on where I couldn't feel my face. Every step I took, I was so highly aware of. It felt robotic, mechanical, and foreign. It was very much stress induced. Let me skip through. Now I'm going to push back the next live by a little bit. Chat. No shit. Time blindness. What even is that? Wait, how very time blind of me. How very ironic and very fitting. The time blindness stream is going to be pushed back by a bit.
persona in a way, or this kind of like a lot less intimidating. And for those who find big tasks too overwhelming to even start, Timo breaks them down into more manageable subtasks to get the ball rolling. Right, now I need to go and change my trousers. Back to the episode. Where do you think the line is between putting on this persona in a way, or this kind of like version of you displaying empathy in a way that you know how to? Where does that line stop being healthy and it goes into the territory of masking? And is masking, like in itself, can that be a trauma response?
Yes. So I think this is where I kind of wanted to hit on the complex trauma and ADHD thing. Because what are the differences? That's what people will say.
Yes. Let's get to the point.
With both ADHD and trauma, you'll find that people are masking because they recognize that other people are doing things differently to them. It's difficult though, because if I think back, you don't know you're masking. So we know it now. We can catch ourselves doing it. So I have this bit of a dichotomy within me going, but is that just me? Is that masking? Or does my nervous system just know when to switch on and switch off? Do I feel frustrated that there are times when I don't feel like I can be authentic? I don't. I think I
pause. Yes. What the fuck? Yes. He does. All those items on the shelf. So this is quite lovely. All those items on the shelf are things that guests like Ella have brought in, and it's what ADHD. It's a symbolic representation of what ADHD means to them. Ella has something on the coffee table in front of them. It's covered with a sheet or a cloth. So she will unveil that later. I already know what it is. The washing machine. He actually the host, Tim, I think, should know, don't know. He has that washing machine there. In it is something, can't remember, ADHD, something that at the end of the show, every show, it's some pieces of paper. It might be a letter from the past guest, the previous guest from the most recent interview, about their three tips in life as an ADHD person. But he also calls it the washing machine of, that's his item, because to him ADHD is the fact that he and many of us leave laundry in the machine. Not Joey. Joey is a laundry fiend, and I love it. But so many people forget the laundry in the machine, forget their laundry in the dryer, forget to put their laundry into the dryer, forget to fold their laundry. Laundry is very representative for him, the host, of his ADHD-ness. So good question. I'm glad you asked.
I struggled to be authentic when I was younger. I don't now. I try and tell people exactly what I'm thinking. And I try and be as honest as I possibly can, because I recognize how valuable that is to them. So I don't know, actually. I often have this conversation with people in clinic. They go, I'm constantly masking. And I go, are you? Or is that just a part of who you are? Do we need to keep saying that you're masking, or it's only if it's detrimental to you? So I'd be interested in this. Do you feel like you're definitely masking, or is it just a version of you that is natural?
Both.
It's so interesting, isn't it? And I've been thinking so much about this. The whole idea of masking, it's kind of easy when you discover this world of neurodiversity to hear this word masking, and you're like, oh my God, there's so many different versions of me. Some of them must be fake.
Yeah.
I had an amazing psychiatrist called Dr. James Christner, and he introduced me to the idea, or a theory, that rather than looking at it as a mask that is a fake version of you, it's better to imagine yourself as an orange, and you have segments.
Yes.
There's different versions of Alex. There's different versions.
Guess what he says in a minute, or she says. It's the word that I love, that you love, that I love. It's that word.
Versions of Ella.
Yeah.
And you can some days be extroverted.
Yes.
You can some days be introverted.
Yeah.
You can some days really regret the fact that you've said yes to going to that party.
Yeah.
You can some days really be excited about the fact that you've got a party tonight.
Yeah.
And it's completely depending on so many variables that's going on in your life at that time.
Yeah.
Family, work, finance, whatever. You're all going to show up as a different version of you, but it's okay to have different versions of you and to not straight away jump to the conclusion that, well, because that version of Alex is in such contradiction and such contrast to
Alex,
that version of
not
Alex,
Tim,
then
James Alex.
which one's real and which
Sorry,
one
Alex.
is a fake version of you?
So I'm so excited that we've had this conversation, because the masking thing kind of has annoyed me for a little while now, only because I really have to break this down. And luckily, there's a great theory and a psychotherapy developed by Richard Schwartz. I don't know if you've heard of Richard Schwartz, but he developed internal family systems. Now, internal family systems is born from family systems therapy. And essentially, it looks at all the different parts of us that exist. It's very much based on trauma, actually, IFS. And it says that what happens is we get like these 3 layers. So we get our exiles, which are shame, vulnerability, all the things we don't want people to see about us. We get protectors, and we get managers, and we get firefighters. So protectors might be things like control and anxiety. It might be the extroverted self stepping up to hide the shame and vulnerability. And then we'll get managers, and sometimes they're a bit more maladaptive. So they could be like anger. They could go into a more sort of OCD level of control. And then the firefighters are the things that we use to escape, like alcohol, drugs, Netflix, shopping, money, all that sort of thing. Now, he says, and I agree, and I love this theory, that we don't remove parts of self. We accept them all as part of an internal family, and we just unblend them a little bit, and we look at them with the eyes of compassion, and we go to the core self. So I suppose some people could call that higher self, the version of us that we were born with before we had to develop.
Pause. Who knows? I'm just me. I found this a very interesting concept. I know there's times when I think I've told this story before, again, back in the height of that fucking, the stress, the trauma of the flying monkeys and the smear campaign. There was times when I was feeling so overwhelmed with things and was moping at work, all up in my head with my rumination, and I'd be like, snap the fuck out of it, and I'd go into hyper, like, chirpy fucking delight mode, and I was so aware of it. And that, I mean, that was just so that I could pull my weight as the person I should be at work, which is that person. I'm not going to drag everybody down with my bullshit. But that, again, that wasn't detrimental. I think masking and being adaptable, being a chameleon, is it can be a helpful thing. Everybody does it. Everybody has their work self and their streaming self. No, I'm basically the same all the time. They're how they are with family, how they are at the shops. There's just different versions. It's we're oranges.
These different versions of self to either survive trauma or to survive ADHD or neurodiversity. And so he would say there's a version of us that is love and light and just the sort of miracle of life. And all the other parts have developed around our unique experiences. And of course, within trauma and ADHD, we're all still massively individual.
It was me compartmentalizing. I am able to, yep, by necessity. Pushing it off for there and now, stopping the rumination, because I'm very prone to rumination. Being mindful, that state of mind, and that the loop that I was in wasn't helpful for me, and it was making me feel worse. So I put on my fucking happy face and I fucking did it. And it's exhausting though. That's exhausting when it's not oranges. Nick, you were too busy with Salami or something. So he just spoke about how we're not necessarily masking. It's just that a psychologist has suggested to him that was it masking, or was it just that every person is an orange and that each segment of that orange is a different kind of extrovert, introvert, work self, home self, parent self, friend self. And like Color says, she has the same everywhere. She is the same everywhere. I'm basically the same everywhere. But then I'm not going to be saying you fucking cunt if I'm meeting with the Prince of Saudi Arabia, right? I'm going to try not to, at least.
So it's to look at all of the different parts as a version of you that is allowed to be there now. if I was to look at trauma and say, go back to disassociation, instead of some things being a mask, they've become a coping mechanism. So, for example, if I was sexually abused, well, when I was sexually abused, the next day I'd go to school and play in the playground like all the other kids. And you would not have known at that point that I'd been sexually abused the night before. I was just like every other child. So that's disassociation. Now that becomes problematic when you go through life.
Pause, because cheese, blue cheese. Matilda, I didn't used to like blue vein cheese either. Do you know what now is my favorite? Fucking soft blue vein. So good. Like, so good. Like, I crave it. More than brie. Who even am I? What happened?
Disassociating because you're not actually processing anything and you become, like we said, dead inside. That can be detrimental to your future relationships, to your work relationships, to your level of ability to read other people because you're disassociated and you assume everybody else is. That's very different to wearing a mask. But if, when we talk about wearing a mask, we're simply saying that's a version of me that shows up in a certain situation and it's not detrimental to you, then I would say that's not something that you need to change. It's something you need to accept. So good. I think sometimes with the word mask, we think, well, we shouldn't be masking, you know, or it's too difficult for me to mask. Is it really? Is it just a version of you and you've maybe got 10 versions as opposed to 3? If that becomes detrimental, then we need to look at the way you manage your lifestyle more than looking too much at the mask.
It's such a great, fresh perspective on the concept of masking, and
I
it's
love
not necessarily a case
reframing
of it being binary.
So good.
Of, you know, that's the real Ella, that's a fake persona that Ella's putting on in order to fit in.
Yes,
like, it doesn't need to be as binary.
No,
as that.
no,
it can be versions of you.
Yeah,
and they're all you, right?
Yeah, they are, and I kind of like it. I like the fact that. Because it makes me very adaptable in my work. Because you could walk in and I could have a conversation with you and work with you in a completely different way to how I'm going to work with the next person. So
hey, wait, can we check the Schmo prompt? Matilda, can you check the Schmo prompt? If you haven't already subscribed to our friend Joe Schmo, Sultan Schmo, I think probably is the best one. You really should. Oh, so good. So good channel. Rising Seas Lift All Ships. Schmo. There it is. Let's see if it works. Of course it works. Look. Find our friend Joe Schmo's YouTube channel here. Laurie Vallow Daybell, Koberger, other stuff. Joey can't spell, so that's not going to work, Joey. No offense, but sir, that's assault on spelling. And other lesser known cases. Excuse me. Honestly, I'm dying. Vapes are good for you. Please go and hit subscribe and watch his stuff. I'm still catching up. I need another brain, another set of ears, and about another 69 hours in every day, and I've got this shit.
So what I feel I'm really good at is being the chameleon, and not in the negative sense. I feel like that is my superpower. That I can, the whole metamorphosis thing, you know, I can go through those stages again and again and again, depending on the person. And I find that fascinating. I find that journey of being able to, you know, mold myself around different people a beautiful experience. And I wouldn't change it for the world. So I don't want to call that a mask. I like to call it the butterfly effect.
Love the butterfly effect. And it's such a fresh way to look at it. Because I think when you have that definition of masking in your mind, I think there can be quite a lot of shame.
Yeah.
So
Joe is not from the East Coast. Joe has a wonderful accent. Indiana, right? So good. Boom. Replay the part where she says Chameleon. I will. Blue cheese broccoli soup is delicious. Nice. I'll replay it. I wasn't even paying attention. Fancy that. No, Joe Schmo's accent is delightful. Hey, Akasha, you should watch the live stream replay that I did with Joe. Well, Joe did with me 2 weeks ago. Last week. Excuse me. Dying. I swear vapes are good for you. You gotta have a vice. Wait, how far back did she say it? Ask and you shall receive, chat.
Because it makes me very adaptable in my work. Because you could walk in and I could have a conversation with you and work with you in a completely different way to how I'm going to work with the next person. So what I feel I'm really good at is being the chameleon, and not in the negative sense. I feel like that is my superpower, that I can, the whole metamorphosis thing, you know, I can go through those stages again and again and again, depending on the person. And I find that fascinating. I find that journey of being able to, you know, mold myself around different people a beautiful experience. And I wouldn't change it for the world. So I don't want to call that a mask. I like to call it the butterfly effect.
Love the butterfly effect.
I missed it.
And it's such a fresh way to look at it. Because I think when you have that definition of masking in your mind, I think there can be quite a lot of shame associated with when you are perhaps presenting in a way that is in contrast to the self that you've told yourself that you are.
No, that's right.
In fact, it isn't necessarily a bad version of you. It's not. It's just a different version of you. And once you have that, the shame disappears. You can actually be so much happier inside.
That's the sort of thing I think I try and say to people all the time, like, why are you holding this shame? Like that version of you that, okay, you've called a mask and you think is fake. Is it fake? So on that note, I use a particular method when I'm doing trauma work, or even just sort of deep work, deep psychotherapy work. It's kind of like a hybrid of EMDR and hypnosis. And it taps into what I call free flow analysis whilst your eyes are closed and you're in a comfortable position and you're doing bilateral tapping. So what happens within that is we bypass critical thinking and we get to the deeper levels of subconscious thinking. So it takes about 5 minutes. It's quite a rapid process to get into the subconscious, but people are fully awake because I haven't done an induction with them like I would in a hypnotherapy session because I'm also a hypnotherapist. Very quick technique, very rapid, but it gets...
It's just iconic and endearing that I say Chameleon. I know it's different, like my brain is different, and I like it better. Okay?
Right to the bottom layers, and it brings up all sorts of wonderful things. Now, the reason I bring that up is this method is great for revealing lots of layers of self, but also hidden chunks of trauma. Anyway, the first few rounds, we go through it and then people get deeper and deeper into it. And at the end, they go, do you know what? I started off thinking that I was having to just think about things to say, and then it became very, very natural. And I went, hang on a minute. Why did you think you were thinking of things to say? Because I felt like I was just saying what you wanted me to say. And I was like, but do you realize that still came from you? Therefore, somewhere in your psyche, that information is already stored. You've not just thought of it really, really quickly. It was already there. So even when you feel like you're having to think of something really, really quickly or putting on a mask, it's already you. You can only do that so effectively because it's a version of you that already exists. You can only reveal something so quickly because it's something that's already there. So I think that that's where people get confused. They don't realize this is a version of who you are. And some of it's really, really good. And some of it's very, very flawed. And guess what? It's the same as everybody else because everybody is flawed and everybody is brilliant. Even the people that you love to hate, you know, so I kind of just think we need to be able to accept that there's a process of metamorphosis. There's a process of being able to be like the butterfly, jump from one place to the next and be present with that without overanalyzing it.
With the thing I find challenging is if we are there's different versions of us, depending on, you know, I can be the life and soul of the party, or I can go and want to leave after 5 minutes. They're two genuine versions of me, depending on how my day is going and a million other things. But whatever version or segment there is of me, the thing that is consistent is my vulnerability to a trigger. That comes along with every version and every segment. And it fascinates me where these triggers come from. And
Holly, I think he's just that's his what if any. That's his that's his formulating. I don't think he's being rude to her. Joe Schmo has already been outraged by his body language and his posturing. He's autistic and ADHD, so I think that's just his thinking. Instead of just having silence and then asking his question, that's his pondering. That's his connector.
And we mentioned RSD briefly, but just to set the foundation, what is a trigger and why are people triggered?
For me, and the way I explained it always is that a trigger is a chemical messenger that's stored in your body. Remember I said about the military, they're just prepared. So think of it in terms of biology and stem cells. So as you're developing from an embryonic cell, you are then developing stem cells that just know, because of how,
Apologies,
evolution
Drew.
works.
My
The
bad.
stem cells know how to become what they need to be: muscles, tissues,
bad habit.
brain, eyes, whatever. When we
Bad habit. It's just a habit. Same as what if any. Like, that's Lally's bad habit. Lots of attorneys say, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Just fucking ask, man. Same. Don't need to make a noise. This is coming from me with all the noises. He doesn't need to make a noise while he's thinking, see, I don't need to make that noise, but I do all the time. Like, fuck, it's hard to find a clip where I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Trust me, I've tried. See, think of the words and then say them without the connectors. It can be distracting though, but so is what if any, right?
release certain chemicals and neurotransmitters through the body and hormones during fight flight. So again, as a child, Alex, if you had tripped up and fallen over in front of your nursery school friends and they all laughed at you, your body would have had a reaction. If that happened a few times because you were a bit clumsy, like a lot of ADHD people are, you might have a cellular response that's now known in your body. So you've got your little army of cells. And what happens is your little army of cells are now ready and vigilant to something like that happening again. So the trigger is the brain subconsciously very quickly connects to those cells in the body and says to you, this isn't safe, or this is scary, or this is uncomfortable. So the body will tell you first now, and then the thought is, I want to escape, or I want to fight, or I want to die. You know, that's what's going on. So the trigger is always the same, Alex, because of the way your body has mapped the cells in accordance to the early experiences that you've had. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's a mapping in your body to remind you of what to do if that thing happens again.
And the things that do trigger us as an adult, is that connected to a traumatic event in our early years?
I would say that more often
Glad
than
you're
not,
back,
yeah. I
Megan.
mean, not always. So, you know, I'm going to go to the theory here that also having, this is probably going to get me told off, but having a really, really easy life in some ways means that you've got no resilience or tools to bad things happening. So you have a lack of cellular mapping. And then when something happens, your body can't find what to do. It doesn't have a memory or a cellular memory of what to do. So you collapse. And that's when you see them panicking because they're literally got no idea of any of the tools or any of the mapping that they can use. That in itself can be traumatic. So the lack of adversity, the lack of stress, being mollycoddled and kept overly safe in itself can become a trauma, because then when things happen later on, you have no map, no tools, and very little resilience.
He just needs to nod and not say, what time are we here until? I mean, good question, maiden. The next one is about time blindness, and I've already pushed it back by an hour. 45 minutes. I think forever. Until forever. Yes. What even is time? I'm not sure. As long as you can stay awake and then replay, crew maiden. Nick says the blonde lass would have run rings around me 20 years ago. She's super aware. Yes, she's done the fucking shadow work, right? Well, yeah, I'd say. Andy, also, hi, it's so good to see you again. The irony, there's so much irony. Oh my God. Like, right. She, how do we say that? She order anyone. Oh my God, the number, I've got so many new clothes. Sheen, Shorty merch, so cool. Simi says, no matter how long Camp Shorty goes, I'm here for it. Right? Same. I have you as a captive audience. You can leave whenever. There's no coercive control here. Fly, my pretties. Oh, wait.
So I would say that yes, if you are easily triggered, there is often a form of trauma attached to that, even if life was perfect growing up.
It's the RSD that gets me. It's the rejection sensitive dysphoria. You know, the slightest perceived comment, criticism, rejection, instant, visceral, physiological, dagger to the heart. Someone's twisted it. Like it completely derails.
Where does it start?
In the chest.
Like a compression, a heaviness.
It's like a mixed rage and sadness, and it's kind of in the chest.
if you were to link back to the first time you can remember that feeling, or the first time you're aware that you had a response.
Okay, this is interesting. He thinks of a story, right? I did this exercise myself. I have my earliest memories. I'm not sure whether they're rejection memories. I don't know if I can remember, or I can remember a very clear rejection memory, but I was in grade 5, so I was like 9, 10. Interesting. His story is very early, very, very, very clear in his mind.
Response to rejection. It might be a story that your parents have told you. Do you know what was the first experience?
My first memory, early memory of it must have been, I might get my age wrong, probably about 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
I took some nails into school because the kids were digging in the dry mud. It was a scorching hot summer's day, and my parents were having some work done on the house, and I thought it would be a good idea, solve the problem to bring nails in.
Mm-hmm.
And it solved the problem, but one of the kids, of course, cut themselves with the nail. And the teacher asked, who brought these nails in? And I said, me. And she called me stupid. She shouted at me. My parents were brought in. And I remember and I instantly shut down and filled with this sadness. And then after my parents went I went back to playtime, I found a quiet corner in the playground. And I just remember sat in the corner, and this internalized, I'll now use the word visceral, physiological, like internalized rage and sadness.
Yeah.
That I had been misrepresented. My
Misrepresentation is just one of my personal biggest triggers, I guess. Being misinterpreted, having my intentions misinterpreted and misconstrued and misrepresented, and not being believed. I think that's quite common in neurodivergent folk. Excuse me. Oh my God, wait. Oh, yikes. I swear to God, vapes are so good for you. They are so good for you. Let me just do this. My memory that I remember, the biggest, most impactful memory that I have, I was in grade 5, and in something in the playground, and one of the teachers, Mrs. Blundell, her name was, the vicious kids used to call her Fat Dog Blundell, and we were standing talking to her, and she was just shooting the shit with us. And I don't know why she said this to me. I don't know what it was, whether we were in trouble, or I don't think so. But out of the blue, she looked at me and she said, Lisa, you'll never be a leader. You'll always be a follower. You'll never have anything of any importance to say. You'll always just be a follower. Stuck with me. Yikes. Nice. Thanks, Mrs. Blundell.
My intentions with those nails, and made to feel that I was stupid when my intentions with those was to solve a problem and to be helpful.
So the humiliation there is where I think you have this overwhelming. I mean, that's probably the ADHD, that you feel everything so deeply, and yet the way to cope with that is to shut it all down. This is where it seems there can be a
to a 10-year-old. I can still remember exactly in the playground we were standing. I remember all of it. I remember how it made me feel. I was like, oh, I'm a very good leader. I'm an amazing people manager. I'm an amazing, I don't know. I think I go all right. I'm a good team player too, but fuck Mrs. Blundell, you fat bitch. Well, not the fat bitch. She was just a bitch. She was just a bitch. I'm sorry you're having a bad day, Mrs. Blundell. Thanks for breaking a 10-year-old.
A lack of empathy sometimes. But that level of humiliation would have been such a threat, because it would have felt like my world is crumbling. And this is, not fair. Because of course, if you knew me, then I was just trying to be helpful, and all you've done is made me feel so awful and so humiliated. And now everybody thinks that I'm a bad person when actually I'm a really good person. And that kind of internal system kicks off, and that level of sensitivity, because that's what it is a sensitivity. It becomes so dysregulated, and that's why I really hate the name attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, because really this is about sensitivity and not being able to balance the feelings that we feel. And that's then when the brain develops around that sense of lack of safety. So I think that's a big trigger for a lot of people that have got ADHD, because we are so sensitive and so I think loving and just need.
I think Alex, not Tim, Alex needs to learn some non-verbal conversational agreeances so he can nod and smile and give open facial expressions rather than saying, It's a skill. It's a habit. It means it's very hard to do an interview or have a conversation when you're not face to face or can't see the other person. It's really tricky.
Needing that back. And I think when that's not there, our system just can't handle it. So those cellular responses will have happened again and again. And now your body is just always prepared for when it might happen again. But it's not you wanting it to
So
be.
much, Micah.
It's a nervous system response. So, with each person that I've seen that's had quite an extreme RSD response, we've had to really break down those layers for that individual.
Holly, come back for the next one in about less than half an hour. Time blindness. If you can
And really learn to step away from self and go into observer mode. Because it's we spoke about
now I
the
can't
various
unhear
versions of us. There's always that higher self, that observer. It's whether you're employing it or not. Do you find that easy or not to employ the observer when you feel overwhelmed?
No, very hard. Almost shut down.
Yeah.
And the ability to zoom out and sort of look at myself from as an outsider, bird's eye view of myself, it's very difficult.
See, that's the skill you need to learn. And I think this is what all ADHD people need to learn. That's why I love the trauma-focused therapies, because they really work for ADHD as well. One of the things that I think...
I laughed not at this comment. I laughed at this. No, wait. Akasha says, I had to learn not to stare people in the eyes because of childhood shit. So I thought this is what I was supposed to do, to let people know I was paying attention. Turns out that's real creepy.
think happens when you go through lots of complex traumas or sexual traumas or ADHD as well, is that you are stuck. We keep using this word, you're stuck in your body so much of the time, and learning how to come out and zoom out quickly is really
God, he's doing it so much
done
now.
through talking. It's
Here's
done
what I
through the
think.
likes of EMDR and hypnotherapy and practice.
I think actually he's gone from interviewer, because it's getting more pronounced. He's even more. I think he's so enthralled with the concepts that she's putting forward that he's forgotten about his professional interviewer demeanor, and he's gone into like so hyper focused and right. He's ADHD, right? He's hyper focusing on what she's saying, and he's lost sense of all his other stuff. I think that could be it, right? Bye, Catherine. Thank you for being here. Dropping his mask. Yes, well, he's switched out of interviewer and into enthralled learning mode, and just everything else has gone out the window, and he's just like, yes, fuck yes.
Practices like that. Breath work is a starting point. I think a lot of people have said to me, I've done breath work, it doesn't work. And I'm like, no, it's because you're not using it with all the other ingredients. We've got to make you a unique cake using lots of brain-based tools so that your body gets into the habit of knowing how to zoom out and observe. Because without that, you will struggle.
If you zoom out and observe, is it possible to recognize that there is a lag between the traumatic event when you were a child?
Yeah.
Yes, but you can do that as an interviewer with just nodding and smiling and open and like encouraging facial expressions. That's a good interviewer. Not saying well, but yeah, it's a skill, and I think he's doing it more now because he's really paying attention.
Well.
Hey, shall we play a song? I feel like we need a little moment. Think of a song. Anyone? Akasha says, I'm talking to myself out loud and then typing responses. This is why I should probably live alone. Well, I do live alone. There has to be a way to run this video through an AI to filter all of those out. I mean, this is a podcast. I'm pretty sure that this stuff goes to Spotify. Chapters? Chapters is a good one. Anyone else got any requests? Last call for chapters. Let me check. Let me see. Don't worry, I'll play a Nick bumper.
Today, Junior.
Don't forget, there's a new music channel, Miss Shorty Music. Hit that shit up. Let me see. I'm looking at all the songs. There's so many. So many. Hard no. This too shall pass. I don't think this too shall pass is on there now. We had to dump a few because it's a limited number. QRS. Oh no, it's still there. My bad. Don't forget Nick's intro. I'll remember it. Hard no. Now I don't know. Decision paralysis. Here, like something. I'm such a professional.
Shawty, swing my way. Swing it over here, shawty.
Right.
And, I want to be honest with people. I don't want to be somebody I'm not. I don't live in a van. That's not me. I'm not that man. So I want to be real.
There's nothing I like better than snuggling up in a foxhole, discussing the mechanization of Russian agriculture and listening to some shorty tunes.
I still can't decide. I'm going to go with... Yikes. My God, it's just so many. Sorry about all the noises in the microphone. You're like, fuck, Lisa, just choose one. Okay.
Chapters, turning the pages. Life are for all the ages. Journey road travel so far. Chapters is who we are. Where we come from, how we got here. The world turns eternal sphere. Follow that yellow brick road along the way. Release all fear. Walk a mile in my shoes. Not every endpoint do we choose. Roadblocks, fast tracks, and cobblestones. Highways never one and done. Chapters, turning the pages. Life are for all the ages. Journey road travel so far. Chapters, it's who we are. The greatest novel of all time. A story that is only mine. We write our own true destiny. Choose your adventure, wild and free. Find it, bind it, publish it. Work it, build it, believe in it. I rate, narrate, fuck this shit. Chapters make the book, that's it. Chapters, turning the pages. Life up for all the ages. A journey road travel so far. Chapters, it's who we are. Walk a mile in my shoes. Not every endpoint do we choose. Roadblocks, fast tracks, and cobblestones. Highways never one and done. Chapters, turning the pages. Life on for all the ages. A journey road travel so far. Chapters, it's who we are. What is written shall be done. Yeah. Your story, the only one. Chapters make the one. The greatest novel of all time. A story that is only mine. We write our own true destiny. Choose your adventure, wild and free. Find it, bind it, publish it. Work it, build it, believe in it. I rate, narrate, fuck this shit. Chapters make the book, that's it. Chapters, turning the pages. Life up for all the ages. A journey road traveled so far.
So I take live in the here and now, live in the present, to be present, but also you can't turn back time. So you can't change the past, right? Sorry, things are annoying me. You can't change the past, and you can steer your ship, like you can steer your future, but stressing or worrying about what's yet to come is a fruitless exercise, right? It's a fool's errand. So I think being present means not ruminating, if at all possible, to hi Shelley, good to see you. To appreciate to appreciate the present, to enjoy the present, and to not stress about the things that you know, it might never happen, the future. So that. What did I miss, says Shelley Babes. I mean, we've stayed on topic a bit. We've woven in and out. We've meandered. There've been some side quests. We've put back the next stream by a little bit. We're going to get a little bit more of this this video we're watching in, and then if you'd like to watch Mr. You can in your own time, the rest of it, and Ella. Well, so that Akasha says, I had to train myself not to obsess over things I cannot control. Also a hard thing to do. Acceptance, right? The past is in the past. All we can do is learn from it. Thanks, Shelley. Amazing. Sharing really helps. Thank you so much. So we can spend time processing the past, but dwelling on it is just, you know, thanks, Vixie. Yes, Miss Shorty merch. So much well, and then the future is yet to come. So I think it's important to enjoy what's happening right here and now, to not always be looking forward to what's yet to come, because then you miss what's happening right now.
Well.
And the past is past. Learn from it and let it go. Right? Let's watch a little bit more of this lady, Ella, and Mr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lag between the event and the consequences that it's had on your life as an adult.
Yes. So one of the things that's really helped me to get over the shame that I held around being ADHD, and also the shame that I held around sort of putting my dad in prison, and also being the girl. I mean, the bullying that I got around that was awful, because people just assumed that I enjoyed it for some reason. Boys at the time, some of them at school, not all of them, I had some great friends, would be really, really vile about me enjoying sex. And that was quite difficult. And I was full of rage. But I think also that the ADHD that I'd already had would have meant that I was quite dysregulated, but this just threw seeds on that and grew something quite insidious, really. Learning to be compassionate to self by zooming out and really creating a relationship with my inner child, who I used to call myself Daisy Potts when I was a kid. That was my own nickname. I gave it to myself. So that's my inner child. I always think of her as Daisy Potts. Do you know what? She was gorgeous and cute and lovely, and I looked like a little doll when I was a little girl, and I loved my red wellies, and I loved flowers and insects and nature. And when I'm in a place where I feel really unloved, really unseen, really unsafe, I separate, observe, and go to her, because it's her that feels that way. And that enables me to feel safe again. So being able to zoom out and practice those techniques that allow you to do that, which is a very individualized process, which is why a lot of people say a lot of these techniques fail for them, because they haven't had an individualized plan, and they haven't gone into the depths, the levels of depths that I get to get someone to be able to do that. Zooming out and creating that relationship with your inner child, and then showing that compassion and love for self, it really, really, really helps with rejection sensitivity.
My inner child was told very early by someone in the playground that they could be one of the cool kids, Alex, if you weren't so weird. And I read a statistic that ADHD kids, that child is exposed to 20,000 more negative criticisms, micro corrections, little stop fidgeting, you're too sensitive, you're too much. 20,000. Can those comments compound over a childhood to create a trauma? And can that trauma therefore make you more susceptible to being triggered by a criticism?
That is a trauma. That's why I said at the beginning, you know, I wanted to bring to the attention that I think most people with ADHD carry trauma because you've always been told you're not enough. In my case, it was too much. You're too much. You're a problem. You're too much of this. You're too much of that, to the point where you try and shrink yourself down. And I think that's why a lot of it was shut down and playing dead, because it's too much. And then that makes you feel not enough. And that in itself is a trauma. Like, how dare anyone make anyone else feel? The first thing you'll see when you walk in my therapy room is a plaque and it says, "Stay weird." That's the first thing you'll see, because it's so important to me that you understand the magic of weird. I mean, look at Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And that's why I sent you, Matilda, that stay weird design, because absolutely stay weird. Be yourself. Happily me. Be beautiful. Be yourself. Stay weird. Why would we want to be boring, cardboard cutout, homogenized people? All the same. I don't want to be. I wouldn't change a thing. I'd change a few things, but very minimal. The time blindness thing is an issue.
The weirdest thing that's ever been created, but there's a reason that it's so popular, because it's weird. You know, the most magical people are weird. The most magical experiences are a little bit weird. The most magical things in life are a little bit weird and a little bit misunderstood. That's what makes them so magical. And I think it's disgusting that still happens, you know, to children today. This is a good point, actually, although it comes away a little bit from what you're asking. My daughter's just finished secondary school a year ago. And there's obviously a lot of kids that struggle to sit in a classroom for however long, especially post-COVID, where there's locum teachers everywhere and supply teachers. No system's ever been fixed properly since. And these kids that struggle to sit there, that are a bit weird, a bit wild, a bit Jim Carrey, you know, they are the loud ones or the naughty ones or whatever. They're put into exclusion, into a room where they're just made to sit and do nothing pretty much because they're too much for the classroom. So
EDB went on a rant like this, very similar rant like this. Sorry, Ella, dirty pause.
They're not.
Another one. Better. You know, you're talking too much. You're being a distraction in class. Here, go and sit on this bench. Go and sit by yourself. No, go and run around. Go and use some energy. Give them a fidget toy. Like, let them do what they need to do. Let us do what we need to do. Like, one's in the chat, if your report card said she'd do better in school, or he, if she didn't talk so much. One. Fuck, man.
They're not, and these are secondary school kids from 11 to 18, where they're really developing their sense of power or self or whatever. And they're thrown into isolation or exclusion on their own, being made to feel like there's something wrong with them. That is still happening now, when we know so much more about neuroplasticity, so much more about neurodiversity, so much more about trauma. And yet these kids are still being shut out. And I think, so when you think about what they've heard in the playground, and then you think about what they're experiencing in secondary school, where they're told basically you're a loser if you can't fit the mold, and here you are, go and sit on your own somewhere and be made to feel like you'll never make anything of yourself because you're the one that doesn't fit in. What does that do to the developing brain? We know the prefrontal cortex, the CEO, the executive function, doesn't fully form until around 25, 27 for a lot of people. So they're at a point in their life where it's so important that they feel valid and that they feel magical and they feel special and they feel wonderful and they feel that they can do anything that they want to do. And at the same time, our education system says, no, you don't fit in, go and sit in there on your own. Of course, that's traumatic, even if they're not registering that yet. That they're going to carry that when they're in adult heart. I mean, how do you get on in?
Amen. Preach, Ella, preach. Nick, I can't imagine you being the class clown. Surely not. I don't think that's ever like a thing.
And you won't, there's no point in even going around trying to find her, because you won't find her. You could be an inch away from her. She's camouflaged. You won't find her. You won't see her. You might smell her. She has a very distinctive smell after a couple of days.
Hey, also this one.
Miss Shorty, you're muted. Miss Shorty, you're muted.
Joe Schmo makes it appear.
Miss Shorty, you're muted. Miss Shorty, you're muted.
Thanks, Joey. That's perfect. Perfect soundbite clip. Lol. Some things never change. Oh, I never had those in grade school. Wait. I never had those in grade school, probably because I moved too much. Yes. In high school, I wasn't living up to my potential. Yes, because I was in survival mode. Yeah. I still feel very, very strongly, a very deep, like to my core. What a waste. All the things I could have been. I'd actually, you know what? No, I haven't thought that in a while, because I'm starting to live up to my potential. But, almost 50. Straight A's would be better if she would just apply herself. Andy. Ouch. Camouflaged. I bet your colour smells like delicious blue vein cheese and Play-Doh.
On in the workplace when you fear that you're going to be shoved into a room on your own because you were never able to fit in a team. All of those things make people very vulnerable moving forward.
It's so devastating.
Miss Shorty, you're
like you
muted.
said,
Miss Shorty,
perfectly
you're
there,
muted.
school is a trauma factory for kids, particularly neurodivergent kids who don't care about history or maths or science. They want to dance or they want to
and I just don't care. I mean, we said earlier, we can't do numbers. Like for me, it's my brain literally stopped working. I can't do it. It's the same as dyslexia. We spoke about dyscalculia, which I know I've got because I literally can't do it. My brain blanks. I can't do numbers. And it was a real problem with maths at school. I failed, obviously.
Akasha.
But I had a real problem with a maths teacher. He was horrible to me. Again, you know, I'd been abused. I was bullied. I was struggling anyway. And then when the teachers are horrible to you as well, what are you supposed to think? Especially if you're the odd one out in the family that has higher levels of obvious ADHD behaviours, but it's undiagnosed and no one knows what that is. And you're already a problem at home as well. And of course, in this day and age, you know, parents are busier than ever and kids are sent to school with a Redbull and a packet of crisps. And if you've got a neurodiverse kid with that, I mean, it's a disaster. Quite frankly, it's a disaster. And I worry about what the next 20 years holds for those kids.
What are you doing, crazy?
I agree. And it's tragic how broken the educational system is for neurodivergent kids.
Yeah.
You know, particularly, it's so much damage, so much trauma, and the consequences that, of course, that's going to make a child feel broken and not enough and different and inadequate and have low self-esteem when in fact they have amazing capabilities, just not necessarily what the curriculum is asking them to do.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to pause it there because time crunch. The maths makes me into that meme with all the math things. So chat there, we got quite a ways through it. We talked about lots of really relevant and adjacent things. I think we can all agree that we have a lot of commonalities in this beautiful community, and then we're learning a lot from other people. Akasha, I accidentally deleted your comment. It's all good, man. Karen, welcome to the typo world. You are among friends. Typos, missed words, it's all good. So chat, remember we've got an article in the description box. The first video we watched, if you'd like to watch the rest of that one with that lovely softly spoken GP, this guy with his and then ADHD Chatter Podcast is the name of the channel. So I'm going to wrap this one up and we'll start the next stream. There's no portal, I don't think, no, because Amber's not here, and that's okay. But all you need to do is go to my channel and wait, I'm going to take these bad boys out because I need to charge them for a sec. Go to my channel, this, and it's the next one, time blindness, lol. Let's see if I can be on time. Shall we go at his bay because we do every time? We should. Nick says, back in my day at school, you either conformed or failed, and nobody really cared. Yes. So wait, what am I doing? God damn it. This and then this. Oh my goodness. Just learn how to do it, Shorty. I know, right? It's not in my wheelhouse, man. I'm trying to do all the things all the time. My brain is maxed out, but I will try. Thank you so much. Thank you. Welcome, Matilda, to the brand new mod squad. No, brand new Matilda to the mod squad. We asked her a while ago and she said no. I can do it. I can't do it right now. I'll learn. You can teach an old dog new tricks. Matilda's in the squad. Love. Check out the merch store. Hit like if you haven't already. What the fuck are you doing if you haven't hit like already? Drop a comment after the live's ended. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm for me to get for us to get our conversations. These are important conversations, like particularly this next one, the time blindness one. There are so few videos on YouTube about time blindness, like so few. This will be the longest form content that there is about time blindness that we're about to do. So the algorithm, the stuff we talk about, the stuff we talk about isn't necessarily, clickbaity enough. It's not if it bleeds, it leads enough. Obviously my YouTube, sorry, obviously the Karen Reed stuff gets a bit more traction, and as witnessed by my just 3-minute clip of AJ that has got like 11,000 views on it now. Thank you, God. But and a bunch of new subscribers, which is really cool. But this stuff, the YouTube doesn't love. YouTube algorithm doesn't love. So sorry. Okay. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. ADHD, love. Check it out later. I will, or 1 quadrillion%. Thank you all. I love you all very much. One last Nick clip because it's Nick. What do we got? That's long. It says long. What about? Oh wait, this is funny.
I mean, I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad. No, we'll just do it one more time.
To dismiss, which I think is going to be pretty full-throated. The court indicated that it wanted us to file our motion to dismiss by the 11th, which is in.
Funny. Okay. This one's funny.
And, I want to be honest with people. I don't want to be somebody I'm not. I don't live in a van. That's not me. I'm not that man. So I want to be real.
I love you all very much. I'll see you in the next one, or next week, or tomorrow. Yes.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast, just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone a bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's the whole thing. Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy. 'Cause chat is babe.